All right, going live, and here we are. Get that going, and let's make sure that the audio is coming through all fine and dandy, nice and crispy over on the U of Tubes. Let's gotta check to see. Hope everyone's having a good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you are at. Oh, move the microphone a little bit. There we go. All right, let's see what that does then for our audio. Testing, testing, one, two, three. Oh, come on. There we go. All right, coming through. Things are just moving a little bit slowly on my end. It's a little annoying. Portends poorly for the future. Hey, Jake Branch, great to have you here. And hello to you too. All right. Well, so tonight the prescribed fun is to go over this fantastic little mini episode that we got slash merchandise commercial for Murder Drones. And what do you know? It came back. And if you haven't seen my review and analysis of it, well, better get on that. But we'll be talking about that a little bit more tonight. Also, revisiting Krusie because I must admit I made at least one big mistake in my own analysis video. I need to call myself out for that, as well as add in some more details and observations that I have had since then, and not in the continuous quest for more copium, but rather some interesting insights into the characters that I feel I feel like we as players have been gloriously misdirected and distracted by Toby Fox from realizing what is actually going on. Thanks to some big moments, a lot of either really big shipping moments or some really big disturbing moments in the plot. Uh, that those scenes, as great and important as they are, might just again be a little bit more about distraction than almost anything else, of course, other than advancing the plot. Because the more we dive into these characters, man, just the more amazing chapter 5 becomes, and it really starts changing up a lot of the game. And also, I've got some other things that I would like to say in terms of, well, current events in the realms of entertainment and the likes. Because, oh boy, I don't know how many people have been seeing all of the drama around the Odyssey. I mean, I gave my review about it last week. But it's amazing how many people are still kind of being like, "Man, this thing sucks." And interestingly, a lot of those same people who are like, "Oh man, this thing sucks," would probably have probably not said really anything at all about another movie that I'm like, aren't you guys like all in on this? So it's a fun little controversy, one might say. That'd be fun. That'd be fun to get into. Art says, "I'm most certainly not a hostile alien from an advanced species so unfathomable you couldn't possibly begin to understand. Long story short, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well." Arts, does this mean that you are also in league with Count Binface? Tychum has been watching IGN San Diego Comic Con. Awesome. The Amazing Digital Circus episode 9 got up to 80 million subs. I don't think 80 million subs, but 80 million views. That would be absolutely redonkulous if Glitch almost within a week went all the way up to 80 million subs. Would be cool, but ain't. I don't see that happening. Dorcas Adrian says, "We running more Delta tonight." Oh, yes, we shall. Lorraine says, "Krusie breaking mistakes? Please say no." Well, what I'm saying is I have made a mistake that I must correct before too long. Art says, "I'm surprised John Wick's mechanic was in the movie." Oh, of course he was. You gotta have gotta have an angry Hispanic guy around there. I'm just surprised he wasn't berating Odysseus for the make of his ship. Targum says, "I know it was you. I was trying to trick you." Uh, Ards is possibly from the same planet as Count Benface. I mean, welcome to Earth, and hope that your overlord wins in Clacton. Even though that has absolutely nothing to do with me as an American, I just really, really, really want a guy with a trash can on his head to become a governmental leader somewhere. It just sounds amazing. And Nova Vanguard, great to have you here. Nova Vanguard says, "Oh, more Krusie discussion, cool." Yeah. So since we are now almost 6 minutes underway with this live stream, what do people want first? Shall we dive? First into Krusie and talk about Krusie? Do we want to talk about murder drones? Shall we talk about Hollywood controversy and the fact that there are so many people out there on the U of tubes and on the interwebs and on the twatters and everything like that who probably need not just some more media literacy, but maybe need to crack open some books? Or it says, "I will always think of John." I'm so good to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to say John L. As Luigi from the 1993 Mario movie. You know what? I actually forget many times that he was in that movie, but yes, he absolutely was Luigi in Mario 1993, a most misunderstood movie. I will go easy on you, Lars. Yay, I shall not be thrown into the bin, at least too soon. And Tiger says, "Oh yeah, Murder Drone Special short almost got 6 million views." I know, it's just pretty great for a show that's been over now for about 2 years. Or says we should discuss the narrative potential of the 1993 Super Mario Bros. Movie. Scratch that Krusie first. All right, we got to vote for Krusie. You know, that would actually be really funny, revisiting 1993 Super Mario Bros. And discuss, like, yes, everyone, this story is better than you remember. It's also worse than you remember. It's like, well, what is it? Which way is it? It's all like, it's because it's like this movie will melt your brain, but in the absolute best way possible. All right. So Krusie, let's do Krusie first. Did you hear that Pixar layoff? That sucks so hard. No, I actually hadn't heard about the Pixar layoff, though that absolutely makes sense. Disney's been looking to gut Pixar for a while, so I'm not surprised, but it is really sad. Um, Man, okay, quick rant before we get into Krusie. This was not my planned agenda, but this is what you come here for Lars tangents. Um, it absolutely astounds me that Disney, which has the crown of animation, and would go as far as it has to rid itself of animation. And I brought this up before, but I'll bring this up again. It really doesn't make any sense from most creative or financial standpoints. And the reason for that, I would argue, is rather straightforward and simple. Why it doesn't make any sense? I should clarify why no one should really ever want to just or just forget animation. The the reason is because while animation is expensive, so too is live action. In fact, live action, especially with as much CGI as is thrown in today, and with all of the expected other things that you're supposed to purchase, for instance, to keep your actors and employees happy, such as like the massive amounts of catering, it's ridiculously expensive to make live action movies. It is something that makes Hollywood's jaw drop when you say that you can make a live action movie for $50 million. Now we know, thanks to movies like Obsession and The Backrooms, that yes, it can be done really cheap. And in fact, Godzilla minus one was made on a shoestrings budget. It definitely doesn't look it, but it was. The thing is that if you are a really good creative filmmaker in Hollywood who knows how to make the most of the least amount that you've got, you can do some really, really incredible things. But the fact of the matter is that Hollywood has thrown so much money at projects for the longest time that people are now just used to spending copious amounts of money. Well, so actually, then when you start looking at most animation budgets in Hollywood, you realize that animation is made at a third or a quarter of the price usually than for live action. And it usually, if it's a good story, makes its money back really quickly. Maybe if not at the box office, in sales, either in digital, hard copy, or merchandise sales. So honestly, animation would kind of seem like the way to go. But Disney, being what it is now, uh, the leadership over at Disney has a scrapbooking approach. Now, what exactly does that mean? That means that the people in charge, aka the producers, are far more interested in being able to change a story whenever they want it to be, rather than letting a story be what it needs to be. And that is an incredibly important distinction that goes over most Hollywood executives' heads these days, because they fancy themselves as auteurs when they aren't. Oh, it's frustrating. And so they will and so that particular mentality that they've cultivated grinds against the gears of animation realities, that you can't scrapbook your way to making any kind of story, because you need the time to make that story actually work. Oh, what do you know? What a concept. Uh, and so, yeah, Hollywood has kind of bought into this lie, hook, line, and sinker, that animation is too expensive. The reason why animation, in their eyes, is these days too expensive is because animation does not implicitly allow them to scrapbook, meaning that the producers can just kind of make whatever changes they want on the fly and then call it a day. And so that is where the myth these days comes from, that animation is too expensive. No, it's not too expensive. It just doesn't work with your model of that the producers get whatever they want, and what they want is to be able to willy-nilly say that the story is going to be the way that they have envisioned it. Huzzah! Yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's in random rant brief. That is why Disney has gone after Pixar, why they've decided to axe it, or why I should say that they're axing people over at Pixar, is because it is, in their eyes, cheaper and easier to just do live action, where the producers can feel like these great creatives, where they get their say no matter what, because they're the ones with the checkbooks. And in all honesty, they really aren't that great creators. They just fancy themselves as such, and they've got the checkbook. So who's to tell them differently? There you have it. Right? Like low energy, angry rant done. Tigerman says, I blame the Moana live action remake movie. Oh, the live let's hear. No, I don't blame the live action remake movie at all. this was planned. This has been planned for a while now. This actually goes back to Bob Iger. Bob Iger really wanted to gut Pixar and gut most of Disney Animation, and then merge the two together. The live action Moana movie is just dumb. It's just a dumb idea, spurred by people like Bob Iger, who were like, "Wait, this is popular. We need money. Okay, popularity equals money. We're going to do this. We're going to make this a thing," and it shouldn't have been a thing. Making a live action Moana movie was really dumb. They need to stop with live action remakes and focus on making animation. Zootopia's budget was 150 million. Most live action superhero movies are much higher than that. Yeah, and Zootopia's 150 million budget, a lot of that comes in just the gorgeous surroundings that went into that movie. And it's a movie that was popular enough that they knew it was going to make its money back. It absolutely did. Universal can make money on their animation because they keep their animation budgets in check. Yes, and Lorraine, scrapbooking, barf. Exactly. Hollywood's scrapbook approach is just ridiculous, and yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why they what Paul again. I get why they're doing it, because you've got these guys who think that they are auteurs, who know what they are doing, but it's not the case. All right, so let me let me get into let me then switch gears away from that rant, and let's start talking about Krusie. So let me bring up the mistake that I made, because I feel that if I'm going to say that I made a mistake, I need to actually show where I made said mistake. Let me grab up that video. It has to do with one of the cafe talks. Now, I had said in my video that it was Blue speaking to Susie, but no, it's actually Blue speaking to Petal. Now, I know that it's a simple mistake. Anyone can make the mistake, but I actually think it's far more important than just a simple, "Oh, I got a name wrong." So, and once I pull it up, I shall explain why. The audio down a bit. I just have to say, this is one of my favorite mechanics for Deltarune. Like in all of Deltarune, is the chance that you have to have these hilarious, insightful conversations with these characters. They just ooze so much more personality than just straight up in the fight, and and it really helps you to feel like you're getting to know these characters. And the more that you get to know them, the more you just become invested in the game. Now then, let's see. It is it's a Petal interaction. So, or I should say Aqua, not Petal. Aqua. See, getting the names wrong. It's just yeah. I'll tell you guys this. One of my greatest fears when I was a teacher was I would get students' names wrong. And I got students' names wrong all the time. I always felt so bad, especially after like 8 months. Like, "Mr. Jensen, you should know me by now." I'm like, "I know, kid whose name I should remember." Tyler says, "Did you see the comment I made from your Meet Jay video?" I don't think so, Tyler. I don't think I've seen that comment. Maybe YouTube ate it. Because I've seen it. There have been plenty of times where I've gone looking for people's comments and then I haven't seen them on YouTube. I'll have to go checking. But anyways, here we go. So the reason why I feel that it's really important to highlight that it's Aqua speaking to Blue, and rather than Susie talking to Blue, is because, again, this comes down to the fact that Susie doesn't really know what love is. I want to actually, okay, you know what? You know what? The moment that I bring that on up, I have to do this. I have to do this now. Susie doesn't know what love is. Much like Jay right here.
Leaks out for you. That are check it out. Zero productivity. I've got an action item for you.
All right. Yep. Say that's this is Susie right here. Okay, right there. Yep. So yeah, Susie wants to know what love is. I want you to show me. Wait, why have we segued to Jay so fast? Because I said Susie doesn't know what love is, and then I remembered that Jay sings "I Want to Know What Love Is." Susie's voice is on the fritz. I know it is. Wait, that song played in the short? Yes, it played in the short. Okay, so for Aqua speaking then with Blue. So Aqua is our little chaos gremlin. And there is some merit to the theory that Aqua is meant to capture what Asgore remembers of Chris as a little kid. Now then, I don't know if that's 100% the case, but you know what? I like it. I like that interpretation, that we're getting glimpses of Chris and also to a certain extent of Azrael from characters like Aqua and Seth. And so if you've got a stand-in for Chris talking with Blue, Chris is like we get a hint thanks to reminiscings from the other characters about how Chris once acted, that Chris, as opposed to Susie, would have been far more likely to ask hard, awkward questions, such as "What is love?" and it just happens to be that Blue. That Blue is the one that Aqua goes to because Blue is the one who is most obsessed with the idea of love. Blue really captures Asgore's obsession with the idea because Asgore is madly in love with Toriel. And Asgore is, I'd say, madly in love as a father with his family. Asgore is a man, or goat man, who is really bursting at the seams with compassion, with love, and understanding for just about everyone that he could possibly come across. And so that is projected onto Blue. And so Blue, as a flower who's just recently come to sentient life, is also trying to grasp what exactly love is. Now then, another thing we have to remember is that every dark world that is opened in some way or another reflects the person who opened it. Chris opened this dark world's fountain. So that means that there's also a lot of Chris in the characters and in the world and the themes of this world. And so I feel it. So when we then come to this particular moment, I feel that once we start kind of engaging in the layers of who it is that's actually talking with whom, that this conversation becomes a little bit more meaningful. And again, because Susie doesn't fully understand love, it would actually be rather silly, even though it would make sense for Susie to ask this question. Susie is constantly embarrassed about bringing it up. And Susie has at least one meeting with Blue that she's like, okay, I think I got it. I'm good. But what if she's still a little bit confused, which I think she is, about what it really means to like or love someone else? So here we go. Nightmare Shadow Freddy by 1995 was here. Oh, my sweet dear. Let me read this. Blue, what is love? Oh, my sweet dear, love is how the world revolves. A revolution written in feathered pen and clashed by feathered sword. Love is the butterflies in your heart that sink to your feet and dance. Oh, dance. Oh, I get it. I think I love throwing things at people. Ah, how beautiful. All right. The world revolving. Ah, yes. Yes, indeed. Uh, there you go. So it's very easy to just kind of write. Good job, Aqua. Yes, good job, Aqua. Thank you for this. Now that it's very easy to just kind of play this off as it, it's very easy to just play. It's very easy to just play it off as okay. This was a fun little joke. It's Aqua being silly, Aqua being Aqua, Blue being obsessed with love, and Toby Fox reusing ideas to try to extend a joke. But the thing is that it immediately starts tying back into stuff from the Devil's main theme is make a comeback. Aqua Knife is obviously the best ship. Aqua Knife is the ship that has already sailed, has sailed further than any other ship. Aqua X Knife. So what what I'm willing to pose here is that because I've made this mistake, and in fact actually by correcting the mistake, we end up I think figuring out a little bit more that this isn't just simply Susie being all like, I want to know what love is. Blue, can you show me? Instead, it is Aqua channeling, I'd argue, a certain amount of Chris to pose this question, and the response that comes back from a character whose entire embodiment is love is that it is this dance, a clash of pen and sword. Well, let me ask the class, who has the pen and who has the sword in Deltarune? I'll give the class a moment. Let's play the Jeopardy music. Or I would play it, but then I get copyright written, so I'll just do it. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I have two cats at my feet. I actually do. I've got two cats right now sleeping at my feet. They're absolutely adorable. Okay, so because the class is waiting for me to answer my own question, I shall answer it. Gerson refers to Susie as the one who has the pen, which Susie actually says could not be her because she knows that Chris's pencils, their collection of pencils, becomes their swords. And so she's just kind of connected too easy to connect dots. Pencils become swords, therefore Chris, who's got the sword, therefore has the pen. And Gerson's like, are you sure? Are you really sure about that? And that is something that Chris was in the room to hear. Chris and Ralsei are both cheering on Susie as she's fighting Gerson for the hero's axe, for the axe of justice. And so Chris has heard this. And also, Susie opened up a lot to Chris in chapter 4 about how she felt like she had never belonged until this moment. And now she realizes that she's a part of something bigger. She's a part of this prophecy. She is the girl with hope crossed on her heart. And she's just so excited about this. And granted, this is before she finds out about how the prophecy dictates what the ending of the whole story is going to be. But Susie is just so excited to be a hero. Susie's so excited to find love. Susie's so excited to be this girl full of hope and potential and promise. And with Gerson being all like, you are the one with the pen. You are the one who can basically rewrite how things are going to play out if you so choose. And this means a lot to Chris. This means a lot to Chris because Chris is enslaved to the prophecy. And I don't mean what a lot of people are saying, that the prophecy has compelled everything that everyone's been doing. People have been choosing of their own volition to go along with the prophecy. And Chris is one of those people. Chris is following a prescribed path for a very important reason. We've speculated of what it might be. It's most likely to get Des back. It might be for something else. I personally am in the camp that the reason why Chris is going through all of this is to save Des. But in any case, Chris is making the choice to go through with the prophecy. Susie has the power to make the choice to go against. Now, what does that mean? That means that the one holding the pen and the one holding the sword will inevitably clash. And that in that clash, you will find love. And this actually makes total sense. I mean, as much as I would love, and I don't think that Toby Fox is going to give this to us, but as much as I would love for like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith fight scene where the two of them have a ridiculous fight that destroys the entire house, and then they make mad sweet love, or something like The Mask of Zorro, and you've got Antonio Banderas chase his character of Zorro, and I can't remember what his actual name. The name of his actual name is in the movie, chasing after Catherine Zeta-Jones, and the two of them, while sword fighting, and he then cuts away her shift, and then the two make out oh so briefly before he rushes off on his horse, as he should. As much as I would love for something like that to happen between Chris and Susie, I don't think that that's what Toby has in mind, but rather that Chris is going through what they are doing out of love for other people, which is clashing with the fact that they have a massive crush on Susie. And Susie is going to do what she's going to do, trying to break the prophecy, because she's also trying to help the people that she loves. This will bring these two into conflict with each other. And much like I discussed in my video about how there has to be communication and reconciliation in order for there to be any sort of happy ending, and this is a very prominent theme within the fights with Pink, that you can already translate that on over to Chris and Susie. Thank you, Nova Vanguard. Yes, his name is Diego. Thank you for correcting me on that. And so I can also see that this conflict between the two, where people are like, oh no, especially a whole lot of Krusie shippers who are doomers. I had one Chris L shipper send me a message like, you guys are such doomers. She's like, it's like why don't you guys realize just how much amazing Krusie material you got? I'm like, that's what I've been saying. But in any case, enough with the doomers. Yeah, we're the doomer scoopers. Enough of the doom scooping. That where a lot of people are gonna be like, oh no, it's the end of Chris and Susie's friendship, their relationship. Oh no, it's the end of the ship. When the two of them inevitably come into conflict with each other over what they want to have happen, that in that conflict, that is where the feelings will absolutely come to the forefront. The reconciliation can finally happen, where they can really truly communicate with each other. And that's where we will find that their feelings honestly come out. That for these two warriors, the only way to really come to understand each other and to let their feelings be known is in this dance of pen versus sword, of Susie wanting to do one thing, Chris promised and basically stuck towards another, inevitably coming into conflict with each other, and they will reconcile. Why? Because they have been best friends by this point, but also because there are feelings that are there. Now, chapter 5 makes this abundantly clear that Chris really likes Susie. And since publishing my analysis video on Krusie, I have thought about, okay, so, well, I thought, well, what about Susie's feelings? Maybe I was a little too presumptuous with how Susie felt when looking back at it, or at least so I thought until I saw a little bit more of the weird route run, and where I thought that maybe I had been a little bit too presumptuous, I found myself something like, wait a second, no, I was right. And the game validated that. Hallelujah. I thought I made another mistake, but no, I got it right. Before I get to that, let me catch up with what you guys have been putting here, because you guys have been writing a lot, and I thank you a lot for that, putting it here into the chat. Certain aspects of Chris's personality have an effect on the personalities of the characters when they create the Dark World. Yep. Stormcrow Cookie says, howdy, Lars. I hope beyond hope that after all is said and done, everyone will be able to heal and find happiness. Not perfect happiness, but to move on from all the pain. Amen. That's what I'd like for all these characters. Lorraine says, this was a comment theory originally from Post Chapter 5. What's ironic is that the weird route forces Noelle and Chris together. Love finds its way to the girl. The normal route seemingly forces Noelle and Susie together. Love finds its way to the girl. Yes, the normal route. Normally the normal route again seemingly forces Noelle and Susie together. So love will find its way to the girl, and as I have pointed out before, and I need to emphasize this more, the Krusie route is a way of exploring the game. Like truly, like I think that by now, because so many of us have seen so much Krusie material throughout the game, that we take it for granted, but it should not be taken for granted. How many people, when playing Chapter 5, were like, wait, what? Chris likes Susie? I never saw this coming. And they were confused. They were genuinely confused. If you've not been thoroughly playing the game, exploring every nook and cranny and every option, you don't get this. What's more is that there are choices that can be made throughout the game that appeal to Chris liking Susie. And so you can actually explore that. And an interesting thing, and what I find so fascinating about this particular route, more so than any other ship in Deltarune, is that by exploring the Krusie route, you get to know Chris in a way that you literally could not in any other way in the game. And then on top of that, it's a way of also complementing what we learn about Chris. And it pairs off so well with Chris wanting freedom, with Chris wanting to do things their own way. And it differs so much from the normal route, which is predetermined. Every single ending and what's going to happen all the way up to Noelle and Susie confessing to each other. And then you've got the weird route. The weird route, as many people say, is like, oh, it's us trying to break the game. And I say, not really. I would actually contend that the weird route is the original way to play the game. In fact, ERAM tells us that much in chapter 3, that the sword route, which is the weird route in miniature, was the way it was always meant to be done. So once you consider that, the weird route's not breaking free of the story. It's not breaking the story. In fact, it's going along with the story. And just playing through the normal route is going along with the story. What's the one way that feels like you're actually then that you're trying to break away from either tale, is the Krusie route, which then feels kind of a bit defeatist because then it doesn't really lead, because it leads again to the exact same ending. But then that's if you're not paying attention to the characters, because Chris wants freedom. Chris wants to break free from this promise. Chris loves Susie. If Chris goes through with this, they're terrified of what this is going to mean for them and Susie. It's one of the reasons why they're so upset at the end of chapter 5. One of the many reasons why they're so upset at the end of chapter 5. But coming back around to what Blue told Aqua, that love is this dance, the world revolving. It's the world revolving around the clash of feathered pen and feathered sword. That really all of the big themes of Deltarune, all of its cool mysteries and quests, all come back around to Chris and Susie. And why do Chris and Susie, when Ralsei is obviously such a big part of it, a lot of that comes down to that the one who has impressed Chris the most to try to break free, and the one who is more likely to break Chris free, is Susie, which is wonderful because that also happens to be the person that they're in love with, and the person who likely harbors feelings for them as well. Okay, let me catch up with a little bit more. Art says, that's why I don't think love finds its way to the girl has quite happened yet as intended. I think so too. And Jason Lee says, do you think Krusie being canon would prove controversial given that it would erase the lesbian ship that had previously been promoted? I am going to say yes, but that's actually not necessarily a bad thing, Jason Lee. And not because it would erase an LGBTQ plus relationship, because let's remember that Chris is non-binary, so there you have it. And then also, Susie is heavily hinted at to be bi. So there he is. So that what this. This leads me to something that I believe I've said before in one live stream, and it bears repeating again, is that we need to not be scared of allowing. Let's see. That's the best way of wording this. So that way I'm being respectful, but also getting the point across. As authors, we should not be afraid to tell the story the way that we want to tell it. And if there's characters that we want to have to get together in a relationship, we need to build our way on up there. If we do that and we do our job well, people will understand. And the people who just want to make a fuss, well, you know what? They kind of need to grow up a little bit and say, look, I now see why it didn't work out. I would love to have it been this, but I understand why the story made that happen. And I can appreciate that. And I have fan fiction. Huzzah! And if you have, for instance, a lesbian relationship that then breaks up for whatever reason, and some character then gets together with another character, one who might be different, then that too is okay so long as it's done well. I have seen it far too often where people from the gay community have absolutely lashed out against people who were bi because the bi individual ended up in a hetero relationship. Like, A guy, like a girl who's bi ending up dating a guy, or a guy who's bi dating a girl, and then suddenly everyone else is now jumping down the throat saying, "You've betrayed us." It's like, no, they are bisexual. And a person who is, for instance, pansexual, or is asexual, or someone who is non-binary, they've got to figure out their own relationships. I find it really annoying that there's so many people who get really upset when someone who's asexual is not put into a relationship. It's like, hello, it's kind of in the name. So people, I feel, need to grow up a little bit, and they need to allow the creator to tell the story the way that they want to tell it. And that is one of the reasons why I personally intend in one story to have one character end up with whom they do. Because there's one character who is bisexual, who I know that everyone's going to say she should end up with this one other character. And I get where people are going to come from when they say that. But I do want to say, no, look, here's the reason why she ends up with this other person. There's a very good reason for this. The progression is there. And so, trust the process. And we as fans, as consumers of Deltarune, we just gotta trust the process. And who knows? Krusie might not set sail at the end. A lot of this is just hopeful fan speculation, kind of supported by loads of evidence. Huffing my copium. I've got lots of evidence for Krusie, but it might not happen. And personally, I still think that Deltarune is going to have multiple endings, multiple possible endings, where we might see your preferred ship set sail. And the canon is then what you decide to make of it. Okay. Or what if Krusie is the absolute endgame? Awesome. What if Suzelle is the absolute endgame? Toby, write it well, and I will say it's good. So we got to trust the process. So that is that's my response to that. Then Lorraine says, assuming the theory that Susie is half human is true, she might have a human soul. She possesses a lot of determination, and the non-monster shaped soul belt buckle that she has also hints at this. I want to see, Document says, I want to see the new murder short with Alice and Nori before the core explosion. That would be something. That would be something. Now then, Lorraine, I'm going to admit, I actually don't know how much of that particular theory about Susie being half human I really buy into. I get that the aesthetic winks and nods at that, but there hasn't really been enough beyond that to really point to Susie being part human. And a lot of that comes from the fact that we just do not have enough about Susie's background, Susie's backstory. And that humans in general are just treated as like, oh, like they are the critters out there. They are the monsters to the monsters, if you get what I'm saying. So because we just have so little about humans within the world of Deltarune, and because we have so little about Susie, it's hard for me to really get behind that. And that's one of the things. There's so many theories. I'm like, it's an interesting theory, but where's the evidence? And it's actually one of the reasons why, when I did my Desriel video a while back, I only settled down to do that once I felt like I absolutely had enough to go off of before just throwing it on out there. Because it's very easy to have a theory on a wing and a prayer, but I like to be able to defend whenever I throw out a crazy theory. Because I know people have been mocking me for Krusie all this time, but I always came with the receipts. I did not make my very first Krusie video until I was sure that I had evidence to back up my claims. And it says, that might mean that Susie could be planting the red seed we see in the Weird Route without knowing she would be fulfilling the prophecy. Darkest Atrium says, I just found out that Itoki Hana helped compose the track that plays during the Chapter 5 normal route lake scene, and not going to lie, it broke my heart a little bit. Interesting. Little Golden Plus says, I keep thinking of the Onsen soundtrack, like 143 being I Love You, Toby, you sneaky dog. Oh boy. You know what? Yeah, there's a lot in the onsen scene that very much is trying to communicate. Susie, I got a crush on you, and Susie's just like, "What? Wait, what? What?" uh, then Deltarune says, "Sorry, chat. The limit break didn't mean to spam. Oh no, no worries. Yeah, that's one of yeah. Unless you pay, you only get to write so much." Then Art says Susie wanted love. She couldn't get it from Chris because of their silent, unknown nature. So Susie went for the lowest hanging fruit, aka Noelle. All right, now then, here's here's what I will say to that, Arts. So going back to the weird routes in chapter 5, and if you explore the festival with Susie, what I found very interesting in Susie's dialogue is how she tells Chris, she's like, I'm growing closer to Noelle. But also in a lot of that, she's dropping some like I wouldn't say necessarily romantic hints, but a lot of it comes back around to in chapter 2. If you find the moment where she's like, if you breathe fire through this pipe, would it come out on the other end? And she says it was just with her genuine face that, and like, that is her trying to flirt. that unless Toby says otherwise, I can't really see that in any other way than her honestly trying to flirt, because of all the other times that we see her face when she makes that face is when she's absolutely connecting with Chris and is having a very special moment, and usually also a special moment that has a little bit of a joke to it. One of the only times that isn't the case is at the end of chapter 1. So we've got a little bit of a flirtatious moment with Susie there, and then anyways, now I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so I'm getting away from myself. So then hopping on over to the Weird Round chapter 5, when Susie and Chris are going alone through the festival and basically everyone else is gone, Susie, I think, recognizes that Chris is not having the best day of their life. And so she's genuinely trying to make it better. But she's not only just simply having laughs and jokes, she is sharing a lot of moments that connect her and Chris. And she is sharing insights that connect her and Chris, making connections to the past that fuse her and Chris together. And so you're left with this interesting scenario where really Susie, like, I cannot, like, as a Krusie shipper, you can't run away from this fact. Susie likes Noelle, but depending on the choices that you as the player make, it is possible for Susie to never have those instances with Noelle that truly bring her close to the reindeer. Why? Well, because Noelle is growing closer to Chris through the weird routes, not just simply through emotional manipulation, which is, I think, a lot of people are like, Chriselle's emotional manipulation. I'm like, yes, that exists, but also at the same time, I think it's also genuinely that Noelle likes Chris as well. Things are rather more nuanced. Maybe it's not so much that Susie and Noelle are just bound Yuri, but that they're actually both bi. Because the weird route has heavy implications. That it's not just emotional manipulation. That Noelle has the hots for Chris. And that as the player, you bring those emotions out. You drag them out. They've always been there. You're now dragging them out and you're giving them justification. In the weird route, Noelle has less reason to act on her feelings towards Susie. As a result, Susie and Noelle don't get so close together. And because of that, Susie, who has a far stronger bond with Chris, is more willing to give into whatever fledgling feelings of romance she feels for them, which is what you see in the festival of the Weird Route, chapter 5. And that's something I didn't bring up in my video because I had not explored that fully. And only afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, whoa, wait here. Susie's got feelings for Chris and Noelle. They're both genuine. It's just a matter of which one really comes to her first. In the normal route, Noelle is the one who comes to her first because it is a part of the plan. Ever since Susie messed up the plan back in chapter 1 by going into the into the dark world with Chris, and Chris started giving into their feelings for Susie, the plan has gone awry. So the only way to bring the plan back into motion is to let Susie and Noelle get together, so that way Noelle becomes even easier to manipulate and control going into chapter 6. But if you immediately go that way with the weird route, it begins to expose more of Susie's feelings for Chris, which have an amorous context to them, a connotation to them. So, yeah, this is one of the reasons why really people who ship Krusie should be all like, it's not over till it's over. There is so much there. For people who are Suzelle shippers, you've got a lot going on. Congratulations. But also, it's not over till it's over. And Suzelle looks like it's going to take a pounding in chapter 6. I honestly feel really bad for this fledgling relationship. I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to be honest. Even though I'm a Krusie shipper, I genuinely feel bad for what Susie and Noelle are about to go through. And then if you're a Chriselle shipper, there's actually way more hope than you might think, because it's not all just manipulation. Those feelings are real. It's because of the influence that the players had on the game that's facilitated those opportunities for those emotions to start coming back to the surface. It's one of the reasons why I really, really want to make a video sometime in the future focusing actually a little bit on the Chriselle ship, but mostly on Noelle and her particular state of being, because it's absolutely fascinating and heartbreaking. All right. Jason Lee says, I know that Chris is non-binary, but players often project maleness onto them, which is something expressed in the very boy meets girl-coded Chriselle relationship, particularly in the Chapter 2 weird route. I'm not even a Krusie shipper, but Krusie is not happening, so I'm just along for the ride at this point. You know, yeah, there's some ships that have definitely taken some blast to the hull, and fare thee well, ships. You guys can't see me, but I am right now doing a salute. Hearts leans back in chair. Representation for the sake of representation does not serve a story well. Amen. That's the point. And that actually comes around to when a story is woke. And I have used woke against other stories as well, where I'm like, you're just like, for instance, with Rise of the Merlin, I'm like, this is a woke show. Now I know people are like, no, it's not. It's so Christian and conservative. It's like, yes, it is. But the way it's written is woke, because it sacrificed character for theme. And the characters are enslaved to the themes. These characters, under any other circumstance, would never have done any of these things. So much of the stuff that's happening in the story makes no sense. It only is happening because it's got to be a good Christian conservative story. And God comes first in all of this, even though, oh, yeah, never mind. Before I get onto a long tangent about how The Rise of Merlin is awful, you can go see my videos about that. The Rise of Merlin sucked because it was written like a woke story. It doesn't matter if its ideology wasn't liberal. It was still written to sacrifice the characters and the plot for the sake of theme. And it's the same thing for any sort of relationship. If a relationship simply exists for that relationship to happen, or if it exists to get a certain point across, it's never going to be as good as if that relationship is fully fleshed out with engaging, interesting characters who have a real reason to love each other. And I'll take another quick drink of water here for a moment. It is so hot down here. We're right now going through a heat wave down in Tucson. It's ridiculous. And Art says, to be frank, Toby's done a good job of giving plenty of focus to all where it comes from. They're still there in the game. They're not going away. And look how Krusie has grown since then. Yes. Oh no. Curse you, slow internet. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. For a second, I couldn't read what you guys have been posting there into the chat, and everything just slowed down. All right. No, I don't. Dang it. Put that in there. Okay. Normal Crissell is a thing. It's there, but you have to find it like Krusie. Exactly. Exactly. And there's different, excuse me, there's different merits to each ship. And I think that's one of the things that I've come actually to really appreciate as we've come to the end of chapter 5. Because I will admit, for a while I was kind of annoyed with the Suzel shipping because I'm like, I don't think that this is what Chris wants. Also, it feels really forced. And and so that made me a little bit upset. But as we've gotten to the end of chapter 5 and getting to know Susie's feelings a little bit better, and a really good written and a really well written confession scene. I'm just gonna say it's a well written confession scene. And as we come to get to know Noelle better, and we don't want Noelle to be all tortured and sad and everything, it uh how about but it makes sense that you'd want her to have a happy ending, and shippers want their characters to have the happiest ending possible by getting together with the character who you think will make them the happiest. So Noelle and Susie, it sounds like just like an absolutely great ship. If you explore Crissell, again, you find that there are just these latent feelings that Noelle has had for Chris all along. And you kind of get this hint that it had kind of been a bit of a plan, not just from Carol, I'd argue, but from both families, that Chris and Noelle would probably grow up to become high school sweethearts. I mean, it's happened with Des and with Azriel. And before anyone says, but wait a second, whoa, hold on up there. Guys, I know a family. I should say this. I know two families. I kid you not. 3 of their sons are married to 3 of their daughters. So if that can happen in real life, there can absolutely be an instance where the 2 powerhouse families of hometown have their kids all get together in relationships, and everyone's waving their flags like, yeah, woohoo, woohoo. Uh, and then there's the Krusie route, where that feels very genuinely post chapter 5 like that's what Chris has wanted. Chris fell for Susie, and you can see how happy Chris is when they are around Susie, and Susie is herself the most when she's with Chris, and she just feels so at home. It's just so easy, and I think that's where those feelings really start coming on in, where it's like what exactly am I experiencing here? And really, it all comes down to, if Chris had just communicated with Susie earlier, that ship would have set sail by now. What I will argue is the reason why Chris did not express their feelings for Susie sooner is because it's not part of the plan. Because if Chris remains with Susie, it will not work out to follow through with manipulating and using Noelle, chasing the prophecy from the angle of the sword route. It just won't work because Susie will not let it happen. And I think that by this point, Chris knows that that's not good. And I think that Chris doesn't want it to happen, but Chris made a promise. And it's a promise that means a whole lot to them. We're missing some important puzzle pieces to really make sense of why that is. But again, if we trace it back to Des, it probably does make sense. Who wouldn't want to save Des? If Chris can save Des, that they save one of their best friends, one of the people that they grew up with, a mentor. maybe even one of their very first crushes, actually. Also, on top of that, saving a romance between Des and Azrael. Chris feels overly emotional on the topic of Azrael and Des. And Chris clearly loves their older brother, so saving Des means saving Des. Also saving Des and Azrael. Saving the Holiday family. Saving Noelle because Noelle needs her older sister. And if you can save the Holiday family, couldn't you also then save the Dreamer family? It's a hope and a dream that seems almost too naive, too ridiculous. And yet you can understand why that would be the case. Now, again, that is speculation. We are missing, again, those important puzzle pieces. I would love it. I would love it so much if we get the answers in chapter 6. I don't think that we're going to get the full answers until chapter 7, y'all. But man, I would love it. I would love it if we got it in chapter 6. Tar says, I honestly don't think there's any saving the Dreamers. Oof. Not what they were. Not what they were. And I think that chapter 5 is the acknowledgement, especially on Asgore's part, that that's never going to happen. And you know what? I love that Asgore can accept that. Asgore has grown so much in the space of this story, and especially in chapter 5. I really, really like that. But yeah, there's no winding the clock back, which is why it's a naive hope and dream. Ours says the Kattenheimers are primed to take over the town. That they are. They will take over. They will shed all over the place. And having 2 cats of my own, I know that that's a reality. Stormcrow says, bit out of topic, but replaying chapter 5 and talking to Toriel again, I'm shocked by how much Toriel is just forcing the issue of Chris's problems out of her mind, not apologizing for the partying, and basically just leaving Chris inside their room all throughout the festival. Like, am I being too harsh on her? First, you drink with your boyfriend until you pass out, then you don't apologize. Yeah, no, Toriel is making some big mistakes, and as we've talked about before, it makes sense why that is. It's also bad. So it makes Toriel a more realistic character. There's a lot about Toriel that's good. There's also parts about her that aren't. And I like that Toby can play around with this. That there's no one character who's a paragon of goodness or a paragon of evil. These are people. Nuanced, complicated, contradictory people. That's one of the things that draws me so much into Deltarune, is that these characters feel real the more you get into them. Or it says, I made a post on Reddit that Chris was never into Suzel. The idea being not only does Chris like the idea, but it's a reminder of what they're denying themselves every day. Oof. Yeah. Jason Lee says, do you think that each of the major ships, Chriselle, Suzel, Krusie, Krusie, will get closure by the end of the story? Yes. Yes. And especially for people who ship Krusie, I think that I will honestly say this. I think that Krusie shippers are going to get some answers that will make sense of all that. And Ralsei himself has such amazing potential as a character, and what he's exploring about himself, how he wishes to express himself, what he likes, what he doesn't like, how he's coming to learn who he is. I really, really enjoy that. And one of the things I really like is how, again, if as the player, if you're paying attention to Chris and what Chris probably wants, I really love how Chris is warming up to Ralsei and really begins treating Ralsei not as just this companion who must be suffered, but as a legitimate friend and as a good person. And once you start acknowledging that for Ralsei, and not even just like early on, like giving him platitudes of like, oh my gosh, you're so cute, you're so fluffy, I love you, I love you, I love you. But when Chris is going through the ringer and you choose for Chris to be nice to Ralsei, that actually doesn't feel forced. That feels genuine. Because in a moment where Chris could be the absolute chaos gremlin and throw so many people under the bus, Chris doesn't do it. And it's because Chris is genuinely trying to find a happy ending where everyone's okay. I actually do believe that. And again, I say that because within the context of chapter 5, it's clear that Chris does not want to go through with the weird route. It's clear that Chris does not want to use up Noelle. It's clear that Chris understands that Susie and Noelle have feelings, but Chris is jealous, and Chris would rather be together with Susie. But Chris does not interfere with that, not just because it's all part of the plan now, like the Joker. It's all part of the plan, not just because of that, but because I think that Chris knows I'd be wrong. Chris is far more observant of the people around them. And this whole quest is to try to do something good, as crazy as that sounds. And it's one of the reasons why there needs to definitely be a theory video in the future about what the plan actually is and try to make sense of why Chris would go through with this and what exactly are all the details that help us to see that Chris isn't just being a chaos gremlin trying to bring on the end of the world, but that by going through with something so dangerous, Chris is probably aiming for something far higher and nobler. And so in that sense, yeah, I think every major ship has to be addressed in order for every character to find their own happy ending in this. Whether that be that there's multiple endings that characters can get together, or that everyone makes sense of their feelings and are able to make choices that are the best for them moving forward. Darkest Adrian says, recently I've really liked the idea of Chris and Susie wanting to raise their own kids in a better home than the homes both of them grew up in combined. I mean, shoot for the stars, aim for the real thing here. Lorraine says, Noelle dismissing Chris's Ferris wheel ride with her, contrasting with what actually happened, was devastating. Yeah, that's, oh man, that's such a fascinating aspect of Noelle that I really want to dive more into to just make sense of it. Guy is here. Great to have you here, Guy. Guy that hates Bull. Hello, Lars. How are you? I'm doing well. It's really hot here, and I gotta make sure that I keep myself well hydrated. Yesterday, I helped my sister move, or I helped my youngest sister move. I was outside in the heat and humidity, which crazy enough have 108-degree heat with humidity. Oh, it is devastating. And I was out there from 9:30 to 6 o'clock. Woof. It was rough. So I've been trying to keep up with hydration because man, that was a rough day. Stormcrow says, you know what? As horrible as the weird route is, it'd be fascinating to see the town's reaction to Chris and Noelle missing as well. Imagine Toriel's reaction alone. Yeah, oof, it's going to be bad. Now, chapter 7, side B is going to tear people's hearts and minds out. Just you watch. Dark Stadium says, a part of why I feel that way comes from personal experience, sort of. Interesting. Well, Darkest, I hope that you've been able to. I hope that you're making positive steps forward in your own personal life. I really do. Guy says, I finally got Deltarune on my PlayStation, so no more bothering my brother for letting me play on his PC. Time to do another weird route. Jason Lee says, what do you find so appealing about Krusie? For me, a big draw of Krusie is someone who isn't real, finding love and having someone to help him because of his own person. Jason Lee, thank you for asking that question. What do I find so appealing about Krusie? What I find so appealing about Krusie is that, for one, it genuinely helped me to get more into the game. I played the game straight through, first time. I enjoyed it immensely. I enjoyed its connections to Undertale, which I just played. In fact, I played Undertale in order to better understand Deltarune, which I know is kind of silly, but hey, I did it. And so like I immensely enjoyed the game. I actually I low-key Like shipping wasn't really on my mind, but I was just like, it'd be nice maybe if Ralsei and Susie got together. Like that'd be fun because they had just such an antagonistic they had such an antagonistic relationship at the beginning, and so that kind of tickled a fancy for me. But when I went through and started playing it again, because I just wanted to find more, I wanted to discover more, and all of that. What I found as I played more through the game is that Chris seemed to know Susie better than I had anticipated, or that I had previously presumed. I was like, wait, Chris knows Susie. And some of the things that Chris brings up about Susie are things that someone would only know about Susie if they were not just like, oh, I see you there, I see what you're doing, but was actively watching and interested in that person. Like a high school crush. You got a crush on someone and you start spending your time looking at them and you're all like, man, wouldn't it be really great if she and I just talked more? Man, wouldn't it be great if she knew that I even existed? And wouldn't it be great if our eyes met? Oh my gosh, our eyes meet. I got to look anywhere else. I remember what high school was like, and I taught high school for 4 years. I've seen this stuff. But so I was like, you know what? It looks like Chris like truly knows Susie and wants to get to know Susie even better. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm like, what do I make of that? What do I do with that? And so as I explored for myself a little bit further in, again, I came to see even more of the story of these characters. So Krusie for me kind of opened up who these characters were, and I then began, and then from there, as these characters in this world just became again just more to me, I also began to see just what kind of inherent worth there was in this relationship of two misfits who find purpose with each other. And rather than what normally happens, and I'm going to kind of take a jab here at real life. Most often when misfits in real life come together, they tend to isolate each other because they become each other's world. What I really like about Chris and Susie is that you have these two misfits who start coming closer together and they become their better selves as a result. Chris starts coming to like and treat Ralsei even better as a result of Susie. Chris starts becoming more aware of other people's feelings as a result. Susie, to a certain degree as well. Susie shows most of her kindness more towards Darkners than Chris, showing a little bit more compassion and understanding towards their fellow Lighteners. But you are slowly seeing these characters growing up in a very positive and healthy way as a result of them becoming friends, becoming strong allies, best friends, warriors and bond and blood, and then potentially people who could fall in love with each other. And so I just really, really like that progression. I really like the character development, how these characters pull me into the world. Honestly, I've come to enjoy Deltarune so much and learn so much more about it because these two characters and their relationship pulled me in. That's amazing. And look, there's me floating there for a brief moment. Huzzah! Guy says, man, I hate the heat, man. Where I'm at, 90s is a good day. Oof. I hear you. So I hope that answers your question in full there, Jason Lee. Stormcrow, keeping with a more happier image here, would Krusie kid be purple human or a dragon baby? You know what? I like to think that if they have multiple kids, each kid would look incredibly unique. I like the idea of a human with purple dragon scales. I like the idea of a more humanoid dragon with red eyes. I get have fun, have at it, have at it with the fanfic stuff. Dark Strange says, no, it's not anything that affected me. My parents grew up in broken homes and wanted better for me. So I said, sort of. It was my own personal experience. Well, I mean, it kind of is. You got to live through that, and I'm happy that your parents are able to know that and to really work towards hopefully making a far better home life for you. And there's absolutely something to be said about the concept of chain breakers. Chain breakers are people in their families where if a family has had a history of abuse or of substance abuse or of other negative tendencies, that there's a child within the family who's like, you know what, screw that, and on their own tries to break those bonds and build their own family full of relationships with other people that encourage something far healthier, more positive. And I've seen that also in my own life, and I've been the beneficiary of that too, on from numerous corners in my own family. It's something that I've definitely seen as people have made that conscious effort to try to do better from generation to generation, and it really has such a great positive effect down the line. That doesn't mean it's all going to be sunshine and daisies, heavens no, but it does make for better lives for more people. So yay. There's my real world thoughts on that. Little Golden Plush says, I'm having high hopes in chapter 6. Susie will find out about Chris's feelings. The drama will be rolling everywhere. Let me put a pin in that, Little Golden Plush. I'll then share with you some of my ideas for what I think might happen in chapter 6. Largely unfounded, but hey, it's what I would like to see. Jason Lee says, what's your ship tier list? For example, Chriselle, Suzelle, Krusie, Kralze. Okay, so up at our S tier, or actually, you know what? No. Because remember, there is a T tier. All the way up, almost out of the charts. The absolute ships are gold and yellow, because just absolutely gold and yellow all the way. Pink and the player. Pink and the player, Jockington, X Beard, and Birdley with his harem. So that's like T tier. It's exceeding S tier. S tier ships. S tier ships would be Krusie, Desriel, Pizza Pants, and Pizza Arena. A tier, you know what? Chriselle, for what's really there all to dive into, though I wouldn't necessarily say it's the healthiest. Suzelle, cute but rushed. Rudy and Carol. In fact, Rudy and Carol could almost go to S rank. And that is its own long topic to get into, because that Rudy and Carol are fascinating to me. Holy cow. But yeah, so Chris and Rawls, just personally, because I'm like, yeah, I didn't see that one would ever really go anywhere, but it's cute, it's fun. Kralze definitely there with B tier. Caddy and Noel B tier. Caddy and Joggington B. Monster Kid and Disappointment B. And so forth. Cattell, yes. Caddy and Noel. Storm Crow says, my friend Krusie and Desrel, if they survive, maybe the chain breakers of hometown, and they will learn the lessons that their families didn't learn and become stronger and better for their kids. You know what? That is like best case scenario, and I would love to see it. Ducking the drama of actually ranking ships. You know what? you know what? Ranking systems uh, are so incredibly subjective. I've never, I'll admit, I've never really gotten into it. But I will definitely have fun, poking fun, and really though, and honestly though, I will say this: Carol and Rudy could easily be S tier material. They are fascinating to me. I really, really want to know what is all going on in that relationship. Because is it a ship if they're married? Yes, actually. Yeah, yeah. It's still a ship. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about shipping. Shipping says that you want these characters to get together. But here's the thing: is that most shippers then quit once characters have gotten together. That's shallow. That's not thinking far ahead. And it's one of the reasons why I think a lot of Suzelle shippers might be in for a real shock if what I think is happening in chapter 6 does happen. Because they're like, you sank my ship. Oh, no, 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 everyone. Let Toby cook. Your ship might not be sunk just yet. Shipping goes long beyond just the simply getting together part. And that's something to bear in mind. That is honestly something to bear in mind. Especially for a shipper, a good, healthy shipper is someone who definitely thinks and plans long term for why that relationship is so important and what they want to see for those characters in the long run. Then Turner says the amount of game Rudy used to have to melt Carol and actually managed to impregnate not once but twice. We need chapter 0. Only okay. So real quick, like I said, this is a long conversation. It is absolutely long, and it would grow way too pedantic. But here's something to consider with Rudy. Rudy defends Carol repeatedly, but at the same time, he acknowledges that she's overbearing, that she gets in the way of a lot of things, and that she isn't always right. So, I mean, those are big things for a committed spouse to admit about their partner. But at the same time, Rudy goes to bat for her. Rudy defends Carol. And Rudy's in constant contact with Carol as well. And and as he says, he tries to balance things out at home. Like Rudy's kind of like the linchpin of the Holiday family. And so what that like because we know that Carol, at least as of right now, with what's been revealed to us, is not a great person. At least again, that's what's been revealed to us. I think Toby's going to pull the rug out from under us once we really get to know who Carol is. That Carol's not some mustache twirling villain, but a grieving mother is very likely the route that we're going to go. And our heartstrings are going to be tugged against our wills. We're going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to feel about this. Rudy already knows all of this. He loves his wife. He loves his family. And that's why he does everything he does. That's why he keeps himself so chipper. It's not just his personality. He knows it's what he has to do in order to try to stave off the storm of negativity and conflict that would arise between his daughter and his wife. But the sad thing is that he's just sick. He's not there to be around all the time to help keep things rolling the way that they ought to. So it's just absolutely fascinating. And here's the thing again, Carol comes across as very cold, but Carol, again, there's Asgore also goes to bat for her, that she's caring. Like Carol goes out of her way to keep her friend afloat financially. Carol is in mourning for what happened to Des and has kept Des's room preserved. Carol is close to Chris. Now, granted, there's a sinister air about that, but it's implied that Carol and Chris have been far closer than what we would see on just the surface level. And so when you when you bring it all together, Carol's just such a complex character who is very obviously an antagonist. But just like everyone else, she's complex and there's good sides to her. And you don't have multiple people going to bat for her if there wasn't something that was still very positive, which again, we don't see because we're just stuck with Chris almost the whole time. So there's something fascinating going on there. It doesn't excuse what Carol is doing and what she has done. Not at all. Which is again why it's so fascinating to me that she and Rudy are still in a very committed relationship. And again, he goes to bat for her when Toriel comes swinging. So, Darkest Team says, I can only hope Toby is a Bleach fan and recognizes the absolute missed potential of Ichiruki. Oh man, I certainly hope so. Jason Lee says, alternatively, just give up on your ship and look wistful whenever someone brings up crawls. I'd say this. Don't just look away wistfully. Bring up the merits of the ship that you like. See, if you really like a ship, don't ever be afraid to. Let me amend that. So long as the ship does not engage with anything that is socially very inappropriate, so be cool about your ship. Let people know. You'd be surprised how many people are totally fine with whatever it is that you ship, or might even ship the same thing you do. All you gotta do is open up your mouth and start talking about it. I'm Omega says, and great to have you here, I'm Omega. Hope Carol gets an Okuwagata, man, I hope I said it right. Okuwagata Oga style reveal. Spoiler for Osama Sentai King Oga. Wait. No, that's not Ranking of Kings, is it? Wait. I'm making. You're gonna have to let me know. Is that the Ranking of Kings? Because if so, then I know exactly what you're talking about. It's been a while, but but yes. Then Guy says, I wonder if the knight is going to be a stand-in as Asgore was in the genocide route, where we become so powerful their boss fight is next to trivial. Well, that'd be interesting. Regarding the weird route, I mean, that would be very interesting to see that happen. Stormcrow says, for Krusie, I'm going long-term post-Deltarune here, folks. I hope to see Susie take up the mantle of creating her own Dark World fantasy epic and see Chris be happy with themselves with Susie. Man, I would, here's one of the things I want to see Susie do long-term. I want to see Susie become an author. I know that I wrote a fanfic years ago about Chris and Susie as a married couple with kids, and I had fun with that. But if I were to go back and do it again now, knowing what I know from chapters 1 through 5, I would have in that I had Susie be a personal trainer. This has worked because she's the big gal, she's got the muscles. But honestly, now going back to it, Susie should definitely be an author. I think that would be amazing in terms of like long-term run for Susie. Susie as an adult, I would love to see Susie as an author, picking up the adventures of the Lord of the Hammer, like getting permission from Alvin to continue on the stories, and she actually then finishes up the series along then with like a chapter 0 explaining like the backstory of the heroes and everything else, and then doing some spin-off stuff and addendums. Holy cow. Susie could be the Christopher Tolkien to Gerson's J.R.R. Tolkien. It'd be amazing. Lorraine says, the way Noelle agreed Caddy's movie criticisms was annoying seems similar to Chris's Ferris wheel ride was forced. There's probably more to that story that Noelle forgot causing hurt accidentally. Yeah, that's suit Noelle. Noelle, when Noelle wants what she wants, she's willing to put others down, and we get this in both Weird Route and a normal route. Noelle is going to Noelle doesn't really think that much of other people in hometown. The people so if Noelle is allowed to pursue Susie, Noelle is going to put everyone down, including Chris. If Noelle is going to pursue Chris, Noelle drops Susie like a hot potato when the time is right. Noelle is after what Noelle wants, and other people can go suck a lemon as far as she's concerned. which is not a good trait for Noelle. But from what Noelle describes, it makes sense. It's not great sense, but it makes sense. Um, she said, "What to Caddy?" Stormcrow, I love the idea of breadwinner Susie. I mean, me too. Uh, Stormcrow says, "Hell yeah, Susie will go on to create her own Stormlight Archive. I feel in my bones." Oh, for those of you who have not read the Stormlight Archive, you should go and do. It's such a great series. It's so good. I mean, he says, "Nah, it's Super Sentai. Basically, he's a dick who's revealed to be playing the lawn. He's playing the long con to save his loved ones." Ah, okay, I see now. I was thinking like Ranking of Kings. I was like, ooh, okay, oh, I know exactly where you're going with that. Susie, the storytelling strong woman. Oh, amen. Sorker, I agree in spirit about Carol, but unless we get some god tier redemption for her, I won't be shocked if both Noelle and Destriel will not want anything to do with her after all this. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, Stormcrow. Guy says the best character is logically illogical. I love that. I love when you can write a villain or even sometimes a hero who is logically illogical. That's basically my Dark Lord, my character, the Dark Lord, Sean, in my Legend of the Ten Lords. You get where he's coming from. He makes total sense until you step out of his brain. The moment that you view the world through anyone's lens other than him, you realize that this guy is a piece of work and he is causing so much damage and heartache for selfish reasons. And he is trying to cloak it all in a sense of altruism. I really, really enjoyed writing a character like that. He's very different from some of the other villains like Andrew and Ashley. Andrew, who is just this selfish monster. I love how he goes in the series from just a pretentious, selfish idiot to this selfish, abusive, megalomaniac. By the end, he's just such an irredeemable monster. Whereas Ashley is like her naivete is taken to a level where it becomes villainous. I really, really enjoyed writing that. Anyways, little golden plush said I'm not the only one that noticed, but the end of Deltarune Chapter 5, walking Susie home, Rude Light was still on. Caddy's dead mentioned two lovers, crowned king and queen walking down the town. Is this somewhat foreshadow? Ooh, very, very interesting. Okay, little golden plush. I'm going to try to answer that question, and then I know that there was something I said put a pin in, and we're going to come back to that. I said we were going to come back to that, so we'll come back then to the thing I said put a pin in. So with Rudy's light still on, is that some sort of foreshadowing? So one of the things that we get, oh boy, there's a lot of footage that just wasn't coming through with this video apparently. Anyways, so as far as foreshadowing goes for Rudy, I think that the story has let us know that Rudy is not dead. I saw some people speculate that Rudy's already dead. I don't see that being the case. Rudy is still alive. We know, though, that things are really bad for him. We get a sense of that in both the weird route and in the normal routes. That he's fallen down. And originally, I wondered if Carol might not have just kicked out the ladder from underneath her husband to cause a situation. But I think that, and bear with me here for just a moment. Again, this is all part of the plan. Carol was willing to swallow Noelle and Susie getting together after talking with Chris. What I think happened is that at the end of Chapter 4, with the phone call, that Chris and Carol conferred. And Carol's like, oh my gosh, Noelle is going out with Noelle's going to be going out with Susie tomorrow. I can't. This goes against everything we planned. And that Chris is like, hold on just a moment here. And if this is normal route, this is normal route thinking right here. That Chris is like, let it happen. Susie will pull Noelle to the dark world. She will do it once she experiences the next world. I'm going to make it happen. Just you wait. Noelle will come to the dark world. And Carol's like, yes, but we need to be able to push her further because she's just my daughter's head is in the clouds over this. This is not good. She won't follow what you want her to do, Chris. And then Chris can be like, yeah, Chris, like, we can easily push Noelle into that corner. Is Rudy going to be setting up his lights like he always does? Carol's like, he's sick, Chris. And then Chris will say, Rudy really wants to be there. Let your husband set up his lights like he always does. And Carol's like, you are going to put my husband in danger? You're already putting your daughter in danger. Touche. Okay, Chris. I'm going to make sure that Rudy sets up his lights. I'll make sure of it. And you make sure that Noelle comes back to the dark world. And Chris is like, all I have to do is just let things play out. As much as I hate it, I'll just let things play out and it will all happen. And so actually when you look at how the lights have kind of come down and everything, if there's any sort of symbolic foreshadowing to this little golden plush, it's that things have already been in motion. Rather, the lights having come down and just being all disrupted is signifying that Rudy did indeed fall down. Things are going bad. Rudy is still alive, but things are coming undone. Noelle will come undone because of this. Because when Rudy is sick and in danger, Noelle will have every reason to explore the power of the dark world. Because, as was already tempting her back in chapter 2, in the dark world, you can make anything possible. Noelle, who has already rejected that once, thinking it was a dream, the moment that she realizes it's real, Noelle will go for it, especially when her dad seems to be at his absolute limits. The entire festival looking so unmade by the end of chapter 5 is an ominous bit of foreshadowing in itself of what is about to come to Hometown. That everything at this point on, everything that was beautiful and great and lovely and sweet is starting to unravel. Toby Fox himself said this is the last happy chapter, quote unquote. From now on, things get dark and darker. Guy says, I had an idea for a potential Susie fight. Chris will refuse to attack Susie, so we're forced to just survive and call for Noelle like in the Spampton fight. That would be so tragic. Guy, I can see that. That is awful, and I would want to have it happen. Soroko says, architects of their own destruction types of characters are fascinating to me, both in real life and stories. Oh, yeah. Yeah, most people who suffer in life are architects of their own misery. Amig says, not going to lie, I want to see Noelle throw hands with the player. Honestly, her seeing the weird route where she mistook the weird route as Chris not being Chris, she needs to know the truth. Yes, she does. And Noelle is going to. And the interesting thing is this, because Noelle wants the power that comes with the weird route, she wants freedom that comes with the weird route, I don't know if she would actually throw hands with the player. I think only if she fully understood how she was being used might that happen. So yes, you would need to know the truth in order for that to go down. Now then, there was something I said, put a pin into, let's see if I can come back here. Let's see, I believe Lorraine was the one who posted it. So let me go back. Oh wait, no, it was Oh, it was Little Golden Plush. It was you, Little Golden Plush. I said, let's put a pin into this. I have high hopes in Chapter 6. Susie will find out Chris's feelings. The drama will be rolling everywhere. All right. So before we then shift gears and let's start talking about murder drones for a little bit, here are some of my thoughts for Chapter 6 going forward. I think that the next Dark World is going to happen either in the hospital or in the Holiday Manor. I think it's far more likely to actually happen in the Holiday Manor because that is the place where we will get the most evidence about what happened to Des and what's all happened to the Holiday family. And honestly, after having an entire chapter dedicated to the Dreamers, I think it's about time that we get more stuff for the holidays. So I'm expecting that we'll get more going down in the Holiday Manor. And it actually kind of makes good sense there because Susie, who's going to be all like, hey, like, now then, I should say well, it makes the most sense narrative-wise. There's also a very good chance it could happen in the hospital just because when Susie brings Noelle to hometown, or I should say to Ralsei's town, and Noelle begins to learn the truth of the Dark World, Noelle will want to try to help Rudy. There's a very good chance that she could open up a dark fountain in the hospital and try to help him out there. And so it's either going to be the hospital or it's going to be over at the Holiday Manor where we're going to get the sixth Dark World. And there, where again, I feel that a lot of it is going to be Noelle trying to help her father out, Susie then trying to be a good girlfriend and just encouraging Noelle along the way. And what I really see, this is where the drama comes in, is that Chris, or I should say the player through Chris, is going to start doing things and saying things that are going to push Noelle more towards gaining greater power. And Noelle will go for that. That will mean attacking people. Susie at this point is very much pacifist. I love that we even get that little detail about how she now has the scythe move where she can then spare everyone in one go. That's so cool. And that's very indicative of how Susie is growing as a character. Noelle, as has already been shown multiple times, is someone who is willing to get violent, someone who's willing to get vindictive for what she wants. Noelle will attack others. This is going to make Susie be like, wait, what the heck is going on, Noelle? Noelle, you got to act. You've got to act in order to save people. And Noelle's like going to be like, wait, you mean I can act to like save others? So he's like, yeah, well, let me show you. And that then there'll be a fight where acting is going to be very difficult. It's not going to work out the way that you would hope. You're going to have to resort to fighting. And then that's where Noelle's like, why do I need to act when I know I can fight and I'm so strong? And then we'll have a little cutscene with Noelle and Chris. And Chris will then, against the player's will, push Noelle towards the weird route, or towards the sword route, I should say, as was always the plan. That's what I see happening. And that, oh, sorry there, Daisy. The little cat at my feet just got spooked because I tried to stretch a leg. I'm so sorry, Daisy. But yeah, that's kind of what I see happening, and that as Susie's going to come to realize that there's a lot of things about Noelle that she doesn't fully understand, that's where miscommunication is going to come in. No, Susie, in many ways, doesn't fully understand other people. She's not very discerning, not yet. And I think that will lead to her kind of having this moment of, you're not the kind of person I thought I was falling in love with. And Noelle will herself kind of be torn of like, well, this is Susie. I really like Susie. I thirst for Susie. But I need to save my dad. If Susie can't help me, then Susie's a hindrance. Or maybe even she goes even further than that and says, what if I create my own dark world where I can have it all. And that leads to Noelle opening up a fountain within a fountain, and then boom, we have another Titan. And that then could lead to some real friction. Where Susie's like, "You're not supposed to hit you. That will cause the roaring." Like, we fight another Titan, we beat the Titan. And then Susie's like, "Noelle, what were you thinking?" And Noelle's all like, "None of this is fair. None of this is fair. I can't have what I want in a dark world. I can't have you. I can't save my dad. I can't be powerful. I can't be free. None of this is not like I'm not getting anything. Or I get one thing and I lose everything else I care about. This is not fair." And Susie's like, "We'll find a way." No, there is no way. We've already proven that there's no way. Only then for Chris. Again, for Chris to step in and be like, "Oh, well, there is a way. Come with me. Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure annihilation. You will freeze little monsters with chilling ease. Come with me, and you'll be in a dark world of your own creation, where you can have everything that you please." Wow, I actually just totally ad-libbed that right off the bat. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. You guys gotta let me know there in the chat. All right. Let's see here. Chris Feig, great to have you. Chris Feig asks a question: Is what is skipped here that can line up? Is what is skipped here that can line up inside B? Chris, can you clarify that a little bit? From what I kind of understand with the question. Maybe I'm misreading it right here. Are you saying that? Are you asking if there's anything in the normal route that can be skipped that would be relevant to what happens inside B of the game, aka the weird routes? I just want to get a clarification right there because I'm not exactly sure if I fully understand what you're saying. Darkest Agents, bravo, Lars. Well, thank you. Lauren says, Toby has put in a lot of relationship hints to Chris and Susie becoming an item, eh? Oh, that he has. That he absolutely has. Omega says, not going to lie, I want to see, I already got that one, see Noelle throw hands at the player. I've been wondering what a fight against the player would look like. Just, there's so many ways we could roll with this. Right? Let's see here. Stormcrow says, oh no, Lars, I had this horrible vision in my head. But can you imagine how Andy and Lele would affect Hometown? Oh, it would be awful. Those two are just the worst. Still a very addictive game to play, but oh my gosh, they're awful. They're such awful people. I just saw the most cursed, the Amazing Digital Circus thumbnail. Oof. Darkest Agent says, imagine if Noelle is so distraught that she can make a dark world where no enemies can be spared. Oh, that would be awful. Oh, it would be so messed up. It would also fit so well. If Des is the knight, she might react to the Holiday Manor. What if she became the knight by trying to get more power to save Rudy? You know what? That's interesting right there. I've always gone with the assumption that if Des is the knight, that she kind of already started becoming the knight after her body and mind got separated from each other. But it actually would be rather interesting if the way that Des eventually got into the situation that she was in stemmed from trying to help Rudy, or trying to help, or maybe trying to do something else other than just simply fulfill the prophecy as we have supposed in the past. Noelle Angel Theory Momentum 100 game theory reference. Ah, yes, Noelle becoming the angel. If Noelle does indeed become the angel, which I think is very likely, that's going to be a Chapter 7 type deal. I still think that we're going to. I would not be surprised if we see the party split by the end of Chapter 6, with Chris and Noelle going off doing their own thing, thereby lining up with Side B no matter what, if you choose the normal route or the weird route. because things kind of have to line up at some point. Otherwise, you're playing two radically different games that would effectively be that were effectively the same ending would have to be shoehorned in for one or the other, and that could make it very awkward. Toby needs to find a point of alignment. So I think that we'll see the party split at the end of chapter 6. That's one of my biggest guesses. Dark Stadium says, adding to Noelle's dark world, it also works because Carol doesn't want everything important to leave her house. Yeah, I can also see that as well. And I really do think that it's probably more likely that we'll get that we will get the dark world in the Holiday Manor rather than in the hospital. Just simply because there's so much narrative potential material there, and we need to learn more about the holidays before the story comes to an end. And really, we're kind of getting set up for the last chapter to really take place at the bunker, for that to be all bunker set, or the shelter, all shelter centric. So it would be weird, I think, if the Holiday Manor was actually then the last chapter. I don't feel like that's the route that we're going. At the moment, that's just me. All right. Let's see here. I believe they'll do it then for Krusie cutscene chapter 6. Okay. If I shall present to you two different Krusie cutscenes that could potentially happen in chapter 6. One of which is, if I am right, and the party splits, we have Susie at the end when it becomes clear that Noelle's breaking off and going to go and do her own thing, and that Chris is going with her. Like, we get that confrontation between Chris and Susie, and it doesn't necessarily end on a happy note, but with Susie saying, Chris, you're my best friend. I trust you. If this is what you feel is the right thing to do, I'm not going to get in the way. And it'd be a huge validation moment for their relationship as it currently stands. What I think would also be an interesting Krusie cutscene, this is probably actually a little bit more likely, is that as Noelle starts descending as a character in chapter 6, wanting to get greater power, trying to find a way of saving Rudy and all that we get to a moment where Chris and Susie are spending time with each other, and Susie's like, look, Chris, I just don't know what to do for Noelle anymore. I feel so lost. And you can then have a conversation. You'll be able to lead a conversation between Chris and Susie, where Chris, you can again prod Chris towards revealing more of their feelings to Susie, and that Susie could then bring up, like, remember when I asked what your type was, and I said it was just nice knowing that you'd gone through the same thing. Well, Chris, what would you do? What would you do in my position right now? And whatever Chris will have prompts to say, I think will be insanely revealing about who Chris is versus what Chris has promised to do. And there's something to be said there. I think that's a real possibility. Stormcrow says, actually, we're ignoring the cosmic horror cat in the room. Friend is gunning for Chris in a major way, and I have a feeling that Chris won't play the piano ever again. Or more like Chris's will be playing the piano one-handed, which can be done. And then you just got to get someone else there to help you play chopsticks. I think that the foreshadowing of Chris losing a hand is becoming greater and greater. I am going to share with you guys a thought. And this is absolutely a theory that is unfounded in just about everything that we have. And yet, it just like it tastes good on my tongue when I think about it. And it is that the freedom motif, I think, is actually Chris's motif. And I think that when we get Chris's theme and all, no, so you haven't missed. I mean, you've missed everything up until this point, but the stream is still going. We have yet to talk about murder drones, so you are in time for us to soon talk about murder drones, my friend. But what I think is going to happen is that at the point where Chris loses their hand, it will be when Chris steps in to save Susie. Chris has broken the plot and the rules multiple times to save Susie, and I think Chris will do it again. And there's and Eram has taunted Chris about using the blade, about dancing with the blade, dancing with the demons, dancing with enemies. Once again, I think that there will come a point where Susie is meant to just be offed, and that'll probably be in chapter 7. And that's when Chris breaks the game and steps in, and we get the freedom motif in its entirety. Not just the motif, but we get the entire theme. And that will be when Chris comes to save Susie, fights against Friend or whatever else is trying to take on Susie, and that's when Chris will lose their hand in an epic fight against this boss. And then that's when Susie steps in, and we get Chris and Susie working perfectly in tandem to the freedom theme or Chris's theme. And if there's any moment that is truly going to be Krusie within the story, that's going to be it. So George Station says, just discovered a Chriselle analysis and can't wait to dive in. Awesome. Lorraine says, Chris can have Susie and Noelle as romantic partners. They have 2 hands, right? Chris, no, just left. That's why people say Susie's got 2 hands. And I intend to eventually tackle the topic of Krusie Zelt, the poly ship, because it's what a lot of people have been now leaning more towards, and I get it. As a writer, there's a little bit more to be considered other than just, wouldn't it be so groundbreaking if Toby did this? And the answer is yes. But narratively speaking, there's a little bit more to it that we need to consider. And so that'll be something for a future video. Anyways, let's shift gears now. We've been talking about Krusie now for nearly 2 hours. It's time to give some love to murder drones. For those synergy. For those who haven't seen it, we have this amazing short. It's kind of like a mini episode that leads into a merchandise commercial of Jay. So we get Jay's backstory. Well, not necessarily Jay's backstory, but we get more of Jay's character and what Jay has been doing, or what Jay was doing before Uzi arrived on the scene. How she tried to guide the team, how she was gaslighting them with that they were products and / employees of JC Jensen in space to cover up the fact that they are all being used by Sin. And it's clear that she's under orders of keeping them placated because En's had his brain scrambled. En needs to believe the lie that's been given to him. And V needs to feel that the lie is validated. We already know that V knows full well everything that's going on. And that she's just going along with this. The curious thing is to know if Jay knows that. Does Jay know how much V knows? It's a question that's kind of left unanswered by the end of this. But we get some really great moments of humor. We get to see how much trauma Jay has been suffering ever since the events back at the manor when Earth's apocalypse was kicked off. Oh yikes! Yeah, Jay has been through a lot, and this play pretend and murdering other drones out on distant worlds is basically her way of keeping everyone alive and keeping them entertained, giving them purpose before Sin comes back to meddle around with them. So long as they are doing the job, Sin won't mess with them. That is her way of thinking. And unfortunately, that all gets derailed really fast once Uzi arrives on the scene. But I just gotta say what we just saw right there. If you haven't already seen it, I'm gonna back this up. I love the planning session. It's so ridiculous. This was really good writing. But here's something I actually have to quickly point out before we move on. Liam Vickers did not write this. Liam Vickers was, as far as I could tell, was not involved with this mini episode's creation. This was done by writers in-house over at Glitch Productions, and it goes to show that these people really took great care in getting to understand these characters, know how they speak, know how they should act around each other, because this episode at first glance feels exactly like all canon. It's only once you start paying attention to little details here and there that you realize it's a little bit more fan fiction than it is canon. But it's written so well and it works so well that it's easy to accept it. And by all means, by all accounts, because Glitch owns this is a Glitch made mini episode, you might as well count it as canon. But it's not something that Liam himself made. And so this comes back around to a conversation we've had in the past about how, as a creator, the moment that you start working with other people to get your work done, especially larger studios, they own your work. And we now see that in progress. And I thought we would never actually get to this point where they would try to do more of Murder Drones without Liam Vickers. But Liam apparently is getting ready to do something else right now. And so this is Glitch then, of their own initiative, continuing the story in a way. And that's really, really interesting to me. And they've been doing this for Murder Drones. I wonder if that will also be the same thing for the Amazing Digital Circus in the future. Anyways, let's enjoy and laugh at this amazing scene right here. Let me bring the audio back on a bit.
It remains into these gorgeous vertical deliverables. V gets weirdly happy about these. The worker drone's hideout. Major blocker in our pipeline right now. The bottleneck? Those doors. Our goal for the sync is to identify a point of entry, and by doing so, possibly receive the highest honor of a one-of-a-kind JC branded pen. Any ideas?
I, too, would commit mass murder for a J.C. Jensen pen. A one-of-a-kind J.C. Jensen pen. Glitch, take note of that.
Oh! Santa! He's a master at getting into houses. We should ask him.
No, what are you, 5? Santa's busy and...
Terrible idea. Horrendous idea. Couldn't agree more.
Okay, what...
Confirmed, Santa is an entity in the Murder Drones universe, either as fantasy or as a very real character. There's now so much fan fiction material with this alone. What if there's like an eldritch fight going out in the cosmos of Santa versus Sin? Imagine that.
If we pretend we left the planet, launch the pod into orbit, wait for the workers to think we're gone, and then... We've just gotta fix the pod and...
No! We might, break a crucial thing. And then what? No way home.
I love how childish these murder robots are. I know it's great. And Tyron says, I saw N with the pilot badge on. Ah, yes, the pilots. Wonder how he lost. Oh, there it is, right on up there. Oh my gosh! And I love how V is using not necessarily the Trojan horse approach, but like Odysseus's plan of what if we just leave and make them think that we've actually left, and then we come back when they least expect it, and that flies in the face of what they're expected to do because they are meant to stay on the planet, or at least Jay wants to keep them on the planet because once they leave the planet, they begin breaking whatever agreement they have with Sin, and Sin will come after them. Now, this is where things get a little tricky because it's like, wait a second, V should already know this. So either V is just getting way too much into the murder drones business, or she's acting way too much in character, or this is actually something that she doesn't know, but that only Jay knows. I intend to believe the third option, simply because it works really well within what's been established about Sin, about how Sin manipulates people, how she tricks them, and so it would be very much on brand for Sin to have left N's mind scrambled, so that way he's just a goofy, lovable idiot that can be hurt, and that V is going to try to protect while at the same time keep at arm's length, knowing that Sin will at any given moment try to hurt him just to hurt her. V then trying to be a good murder drone because so long as she's a good murder drone, Sin will not hurt N. And Jay then knowing that if they break off from this mission in any kind of way, then Sin will go after both N and V, who it's kind of hinted at that she does have a little bit more of a soft spot for them than was what was previously hinted at. Now, I'm not sure, again, like that feels a little bit more fanfic-y than what's in the canon, but it works.
Mm-hmm. Meeting adjourned due to gas leak.
I wish I could get away with that a whole lot more.
We tuck ourselves in and recharge for tomorrow's exciting milestone.
Look at that. Envy confirmed. Because in canon, by what we learn in Chapter 8, there is no way that V would have allowed herself to sleep right next to N. And N would have been freaking out. There's only one way that this could work in canon. There's only one way this could work in canon, and that is that N began sleeping, and that V then saddled up next to him after she knew that he was out, and plans on getting out of sleep before he does, so that way she can hide herself elsewhere and pretend like it never happened. That's a possibility, but again, within canon, this is something that most likely wouldn't have happened, just because V's again trying to keep N at arm's length, and N would have absolutely gushed and melted into slag if he knew that V was touching him at night. No, not that way. Get your mind out of the gutter. All right, so such gift material. Jay's grin vanishing into the gas. Yes. Let's go back for that.
Gas leak.
Yes,
Finally,
such great
we
gift
tuck
material.
ourselves in and recharge for tomorrow's exciting milestones.
And then we get Jay's.
Good.
Then we get Jay's cut loose moment. I love this so
Step
much.
inside my corner office. Here's the foreboding bad news phone and my company issued
Foreboding
stress
bad
ball.
news phone. Or foreboding
not
bad
what we're
news
here
phone.
When you operate at my level of professionalism, maintaining work-life balance becomes a necessity. Otherwise, all that carefully contained emotion leaks out in ways that are, check it out! Zero productivity!
This is so
Got
relatable.
an action item for ya. To synergy! We so don't work for Jay.
You're absolutely right. So Jay was foreboding bad news by pointing out the foreboding bad news phone. Yeah. If you don't want bad news, do not point and call out the foreboding bad news phone.
Casey Jensen. I just tell them that.
And this is such a great little admission right here because it solidifies that all of this is a lie. We've all been misdirected, and this is one of this that one admission right there. When I've seen people say, "Oh, this is fixing the pilot," this short, even if Liam Vickers is like, "Oh yeah, no, totally, we should have done something like this," would never have worked with the pilot because it would have given away too much way too soon. Rather, instead, this is a clip in the life of Jay that's meant to help put things into better perspective about what we saw in the pilot. Because think about this, we're getting the introduction to Sid. We've already had the lie about J.C. Jensen in space. This immediately rips away the impact of learning that humanity's been wiped out. It rips away Sin's reveal in chapter 5. This completely shakes up a lot of the anxiety, and the tension, the trauma inherent in the dynamic of the 3 murder drones by already kind of explaining a little bit too much, and it would actually cheapen N's own emotional journey as he tries to become friends with Uzi, and also as he starts slowly falling for her, juxtaposed to his relationship with V, the one that he wants to have and the one that he once did have. So much of that impact and that mystery and coming to learn all those things would be robbed from us if this had been revealed this soon in the story. Granted, we wouldn't know where this was all coming from, but it would have dropped way too many hints and clues way too soon. And it would be one where we would then expect to have our answers way faster. Otherwise, we'd lose interest in them, or we would discount these very important clues. This was an issue back in the Amazing Digital Circus, dropping some really big hints that weren't acted on then for like 6 or 7 episodes. And then also what I fear could happen with Gameoverse. Gameoverse has dropped so much incredible information that I would argue kind of happens a little bit too soon, because now we will be expecting answers far sooner than what the plot is probably going to give to us. Anyway, back to the foreboding phone call.
Hey, boss.
Jay, my favorite little helper. Bright smile. Please provide the deeds.
We're exceeding all benchmarks. Quotas are up, bodies are stacked. We're shipshape. Want me to schedule a follow-up?
How about in person? It has been some time, Jay, and I am eager to see your professional smile.
Oh, that is so it's so taunting and disturbing. And this is where the writers, I feel like, really tapped into who Sin is. Just that, and combined perfectly with Jay's reaction, you know that if Sin wants to come in person, that it's not for anything good. It means that she's coming to mess with them. She's not there. She's not coming to, it's not about, ensuring the planet's destruction or killing other drones. She is going to come there to hurt them, no matter what agreements they have made or the fact that they're keeping their agreements. Sin is sadistic. Sin is getting bored. Sin derives pleasure from hurting others. And so she's intending now to come to Copper 9, even though that was against the agreements. And there's nothing that Jay can do. Yep, Tigerman.
Anxiety detected. Do not be afraid, Jay. You aligned with the correct side. It was the only rational calculation.
Yeah, this makes Jay way more of a tragic character. Absolutely.
Yes.
And what was just said right there was to stick the knife in and twist it, because Jay would never have wanted to go through with this. Jay loved Tessa, and knowing that this monster is wearing Tessa's corpse, And Jay knows what Finn wants to do. And so going through with it all, just this is Sin's way of tormenting Jay. And again, deriving fun and pleasure from it.
Hey, boss!
Yes, V. What is it?
You get weirdly happy about these.
Oh, that's... Yeah. Resource positive scavenging.
This is how we got the pen!
Anytime, boss.
Now then, while a sweet moment between Jay and V, again, this kind of calls into question how well does this actually jive with the canon? Because V does know better. Is this V just playing along? Is this V trying to send a message? Is this V just trying to be nice? We don't really know. And is it really in character for V? Maybe. It's just really hard to tell. Like, it works really well for Jay's character. It absolutely does. And for, again, solidifying how she acts, the why she does, her own tragic backstory and the trauma she's dealing with. It's all really, really good. Like, this is so well written, and it just works with, like, the general vibe and feeling of what we know of these characters. It's just that little details here and there, to me, just don't quite match up with the original canon. And I think that does come down to the fact that this wasn't Liam Vickers writing this, but two other writers over at Glitch Productions who put this all together. So the continuity just naturally won't line up completely. And I mean, for crying out loud, though, I guess we can call it that this works because Liam Vickers was also not exactly the paragon of perfect continuity, now was he?
Thanks to me, you now understand what it takes to build a high-performing team. The next question is, well, what's next? Every team will face a moment when they have to choose which path will carry them forward. That choice is never easy. But what matters is that they remain united. And as a leader,
Come on, boss!
it falls on you to make sure that happens.
Alrighty. And then we get Krusie tromping on in. Lead into the pilots. And they cleaned up that shot there pretty well, and then it just goes into the merchandise trailer. What I really do like about all of this is how it underscores just how good Murder Drones is. Like, when it's good, it's good. And Murder Drones is pretty dang stinking good. So it would be great if we got even more of these. I would absolutely love to see more shorts set in the Murder Drones universe. I'd love for us to get backstory now into Doll. If we could get that, yes, please and thank you. I would love to see more of Thad and Lizzie. And I think it would be great if we could continue on with the Murder Drones season 2. And I think that Glitch is weighing their options moving forward, because if the fans have received this little bit well, and it's been gaining more and more views. We at the beginning of the stream we're talking about how it has nearly 6 million. I'm quickly checking to see where it stands now. Real quick. 5.6 million views. So that's fairly solid. It won't earn back what they put into it on just ad revenue alone, but there's plenty of people who will go and buy merch more Murder Drones merch, and they'll just they'll keep things rolling. If Murder Drones can continue to do well with these little bits, I think that Glitch Productions might be tempted to explore the possibilities of a season 2. Now, that is a pretty big move to make, considering everything that Liam Vickers left them with. And again, if they continue on the story in such a radical way forward, they would be going it alone without him, unless they could somehow convince him to come back. So there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts there. We'd have to see how that plays out in the long run. But I think that I do think that at the heart of it, it's not just simply keeping the fans happy and the fan base alive or selling more merch. While those are definitely big things for them, I think that it's also Glitch Productions flexing their creative muscles outside of just working with the specific creators that they've brought on, like Liam and Gooseworks, to see if it's possible to do more with very popular series. Now, for the people who are hoping for more The Amazing Digital Circus, I'd say don't get your hopes up too quick on that, because it just ended, and I think they're going to let that one rest a little bit. We'll see how things go again. And before they tackle anything with any sort of continuing on something like The Amazing Digital Circus, if that would even be a wise idea, which I might actually say it isn't, they will first test it out with something far more malleable like Murder Drones. So I think that this is not just simply selling merch. I think that it is part of a greater plan to see what the fans like, how they respond to this, how good their own creative team is minus Liam Vickers. And maybe that might mean more Murder Drones in the future. That's just a guess, but it's a logical guess, and it's one that could be very profitable for them and very good for the fan base. Hopefully, we'll just have to see. Lorraine says, I can't stop thinking of Aperture Science with this series. The cake is a lie. Oh, yes. The cake is a lie, Lorraine. Oh my gosh. Oh, imagine Sin being the game Portal. Whoa, oof. That'd just be awful. All right, but any other thoughts that people want to share as far as this most recent Murder Drones offering and short goes? Any insights? Any thoughts? Does anyone think I'm maybe putting the cart before the horse with saying that Glitch might be thinking about doing more Murder Drones? Let me know in the chat. And yeah, I think that's all. I think that's personally all I gotta say about this. It was fun. It was well written. It definitely has some fanfic elements to it, but that doesn't make it bad. Not at all. It just means that it doesn't quite fit. But then again, and Liam Vickers didn't always maintain his own continuity very well, so it's just kind of par for the course. But that just kind of things to observe right there. And I think that for a venture into Murder Drones without Liam Vickers there to write, lead, or advise, that it was a pretty successful independent step. And it was one that I was not expecting, because I didn't think that they would dare return to some of their shows without the original creators returning. So it was a pretty bold step, and I think a very successful one in terms of the narrative. I says, I really hope they continue these. I can't handle it if they tease us with one and never follow up on it. I hear you there. I really hear you there. I think that for everyone who is interested in getting more Murder Drones, you just got to let them know. you gotta let them know in the comments to this particular video and on social media if you can, that this is what you'd like to see. You'd like to see more of this, and maybe they've got more planned. And if they don't, it might inspire them to do more. Because again, I say that this was a success. I really like this, even with my quibbles, and those quibbles are just mainly saying, okay, now that I looked it up and saw that it wasn't Liam Vickers, that made sense of certain things, and but even then, still, it just worked really well. Omega says, honestly, feel kind of bad for Jay. Also, I hope to see more of these shorts. Yeah, same here. And even if they never do a season 2, imagine if we just got like more of these fun, because there's so much within the canon that could be explored in terms of like backstory to Khan. We'd love to see some backstory to Doll. Uh, uh, I would love to see V and her dinosaur. Just do more shenaniganery. I would absolutely love that. I says, I know they don't have to, but do you think they asked Liam if they could? Kind of irrelevant, but I'm curious. I think that they actually did ask. I think that Luke and Kevin are professional enough and understanding of the creators enough that I think they said, okay, like, look, Liam, like, we own the merchandise. And here's another thing. That I personally think has gone on behind the scenes. I don't have any evidence for this. This is just what I think is one of their ways for compensating the creators. But to say, hey, look, for all the merchandise that we sell, you get a certain cut. It could even be like something small, like, hey, you get like a 2% cut, which I know sounds absolutely minuscule for everything sold. But if you think that, like, for instance, Murder Drones has easily sold, like, well over $1 million worth of merch by this point. Even a 2%, even a 2% cut of that, and in perpetuity, that is, yeah, that's like $10,000 that Liam Vickers just gets on top of everything else that he's done. Or 2% actually be 20,000. So it's like, yeah. So he just continues to make little money here and there. He gets his checks, he gets his royalty checks. I think that because of whatever deals have been made to make the show happen in the first place, that Luke and Kevin have said, hey, look, Murder Drones has been an absolute boon to us as a company. We've loved the story. Our fans have loved it. We know that you have given us permission to, or not necessarily permission, but you know that we own the rights to do to make all kinds of merch for the show and whatnot. But we would like to do a little bit more with it. We'd like to continue the story, or at least in some way continue the story. Like maybe they'd say, like, look, we don't want to do a season 2 if you're not involved in it, but what if we did, like, what if we played around in the sandbox that you created? And Liam's probably like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, you want to do more with Goofy Murder Drones? Go ahead. And they were like, okay, yeah, well, thank you for that, and we're going to do our absolute best to make sure that it's up to standards with what you would do. And there's probably a good chance that they sent to Liam what the short before it was released and just said, hey, do you like it? Does this have your approval? And he probably said yay or nay, and most likely he said yay, because he's all like, yay, you're doing more. Keep doing your thing, buddies. Is probably how it went, because Liam just seems like a very laid back guy, maybe almost to a fault. But yeah, to long answer short, ISO, I think that they reached out to Liam just to let him know that this is what they wanted to do. Probably asked for permission, or at least for his insights into going forward with any sort of like backstory or specials, and then with that understanding, with his blessing, maybe with some insights, they moved forward. That's probably how it went down. And I hope so, because again, that's just a very professional way to approach the story, to approach making this part of the story. And that would also help, just in case there's any drama of they're continuing the show without Liam, that they can always say, hey, look, we've actually talked with Liam said it was all okay. And because that's the better way of approaching, rather than saying, well, dog, we own the show, because they do legally, they own it. But I know that would make some people upset, because like, but you give complete freedom to the creators. And the answer is yes, we do, but we still own it. But that's kind of like the rude way of saying, that's the rude response. The correct response is, oh yeah, no, we actually talked with Liam gave us our blessing. We actually shared our story idea with him. He gave it the okay, and then we moved on ahead. Gwendolyn is here. Great to have you here. Gwendolyn says, I missed a lot. Yeah, unfortunately, Gwendolyn, yeah, you missed quite a bit. But you can always go back and play this at double speed and get through a lot of my hemming and hawing in the first 40 minutes. But great to have you here, Gwendolyn. But yeah, all around, really enjoyed this. Really happy that it's there. I think this is a very bold step for Glitch moving forward. Would love to see more murder drones. And in terms of understanding the business of the storytelling and storytelling industry, even on the indie side of things, there's a lot to learn from this. Not just in how the story itself is written and executed, but kind of, again, the backdoor deals, the understanding of who owns what and who takes control, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. All big things that most people never, ever consider until they're actually put in that spot. And it's good for those who wish to, for those of you, maybe like me, who wish to one day truly spread your wings like a murder drone and take to the skies and hopefully succeed with your own mountain of corpses, aka selling a lot of your books, merch, or show ideas, that you know what you're getting yourself into. Be like Jay and understand corporate speak. Alrighty. Let's see here. Because it is 9:10 where I am at. We've been at this now for 2.5 hours. So unless you guys got more to bring about murder drones, I don't mind talking more about that. I quickly wanted to address one of the other topics that I brought up at the beginning of the stream, and that is the controversy surrounding the Odyssey. Now then, the culture wars really got tied up in this one because there was a significant group of people on the interwebs that really wanted this movie to flop. The movie might itself not be profitable at the box office in the long run. However, it has already made back half its whole budget, which is saying something in less than 2 weeks for a rated R movie that in grand total needs $750 million to break even. That's quite an accomplishment. Also, I gave my own recommendation and review of the movie last week. The more I've thought about it, the more impressed I am with the Odyssey. I will say this, the CGI wasn't great. I didn't love the soundtrack, but the acting was genuinely good. The themes of the story were great. The cinematography was awesome. So a lot to recommend of the movie. But one of the things that I came to a point of comparison with, something that's not being talked about in the circles of those who are all like, oh, the Odyssey is woke, subversive garbage, and those are all like, yeah, it's amazing because our enemies on the interwebs hate it, therefore we love it. Reflecting on the movie, and a movie I'd seen just before seeing the Odyssey, Young Washington. One of the things that made me realize why I really like the Odyssey more than I like Young Washington is that the Odyssey has actual character development. That is a story that undeniably has character arcs unless character arcs are competently executed. One of the problems with the movie Young Washington that I personally have with it is that there is no character arc for George Washington. George Washington is a brash, stupid young man who wishes for glory and honor at the beginning of the movie, and at the end of the movie, he's a brash, stupid young man who wants glory and honor, and now he might just be an American. And it's just like, no. And the only reason why I say he might just be an American, the only reason why you get that is because shoehorned in the last 15 seconds of the movie, and not even with the characters, it is in a text scroll. It says George Washington embodies the qualities that we as Americans prize today. Let's be great Americans and be more like George Washington. Amen. And it's just like, wait, what? Huh? By the end of the movie, George Washington is pretty much the same guy that he was at the beginning. Just now more dead people. And that doesn't, and as a result, it just doesn't feel like it was really worth watching. Because that's the crazy thing. Like, even though the movie had some pretty good fidelity to actual historical events, George Washington as a man grew up as a result of his experiences in the Ohio wilderness, aka Western Pennsylvania. He grew up from his experiences losing to the French and then coming back again and trying to be a better commander and actually saving a lot of people during Braddock's disastrous campaign into the Ohio. Like, you get that, and you would feel like George Washington should have grown as a person, should be a wiser, more charismatic, thoughtful leader, which we know in history he was. But the movie doesn't capture that at all. The movie is just like, you don't need a character arc. All you need is manly qualities and the stamp of America on it. And like, as much of a patriot as I am, as much of a, like, I'm an American, died through and through, died true in the wool, red-blooded American, gun-toting American. Guess what? I'm about as American as they come. And you know what? I did not feel by the end of Young Washington like, woohoo, patriotism, woohoo, America, woohoo, George Washington, because it was effectively a very loud, badly altered by AI redonkulousness that was in the movie. Like, at one point, George Washington's leg starts doing a cartwheel because they decided to do an AI animation of George Washington on a horse rather than actually pay an actor to ride a horse, which would have been cheaper and cooler than using AI, but whatever. Because there was not a story lives or dies by its characters. One of the most interesting characters in American history is George Washington. To capture him as an individual and execute that story would be the pinnacle of American storytelling. It really would be, because George Washington is such a complex, controversial character, and controversial in that he is both the marble man and he was a very fallible human man. There are very few people that are as beloved and revered as Washington, so full of amazing qualities and valor, and yet so fallible and engaging in things that would make us shy back and blush today. I would have loved to have seen a story that tried even just a bit to tackle a bit of who Washington actually was. Young Washington didn't do that. The movie Young Washington did what a lot of people said that the Odyssey needed to be: just men romping around doing men things, men all the time, men. But then they wouldn't actually have been characters. There would be no character arc. The story could not survive where these characters aren't actually characters, where they don't have personality, or an arc or something to become or to be by the end. And that's something that the Odyssey has. People can say, hey, look, I didn't like where the Odyssey went, and so long as you can properly defend that stance, then yeah, it's your opinion, and you defended it well. Awesome. That's criticism. That's critique. But yeah, I don't know how best to put it, but it's just it's kind of funny that people, I've seen so many people project onto the Odyssey what Young Washington as a movie is. Young Washington as a movie is not well regarded. It's not going to really. I don't even think it's actually made any money yet, from what I've been able to find. So technically, it would be a flop, and it's just a bad retelling of George Washington's life, where George Washington isn't even a person, but just rather a mechanism for the story to move on. And if you're just going to talk about the greater history of the French and Indian War / 7 Years' War, there's so many better ways to tell it. But the movie didn't do that. So it kind of sucked. Whereas the Odyssey, whatever flaws it did have, presented fascinating characters. And so as a writer, when it comes down to your own stories, you got to think about how do you balance this? How do you balance plot and character progression? It is a juggling act, and it's a juggling act that you have to perform, because great characters without a plot is a meandering story that people wonder why they bothered with it. Even though the characters were great, without a plot, you don't hold people for very long. At the same time, a plot without great characters likewise cannot hold people for very long. So you got to figure out how to juggle that. And that challenge is faced anew with new solutions depending on each story that you write. It will always change because all of your characters are their own individuals who are in need of their own arcs, and every single story that you write will be different in its own way, having its own demands in terms of world building, themes, lore, plot progression, twists, reveals, and so forth. So, yeah, a lot of the criticism that I've seen for the Odyssey kind of misses that understanding, that nuance, that media literacy for storytelling. And a lot of those people who say that this is how they want the Odyssey to be, well, guess what? There's a movie that already does that. It's Young Washington. But none of you are going to see Young Washington, and I know this because Young Washington isn't doing very well at the box office. And having seen Young Washington, I can understand why. It's just disappointing. So disappointing. Hollywood needs a new generation of good writers to come in and save it. Though, at the same time, that being said, Sally Goodman just pointed out here, Toy Story 5 is about to hit the $1 billion mark, which is great for Toy Story. Keep going on. Lorraine said earlier, that reminds me, Beavis and Butthead were taken away from Mike Judge by MTV. It didn't go well for them. Yeah, and that's a good thing to point out, especially like in light of Murder Drones. If you're going to take a story away from its creator, you got to know what to do with it. Now then, this actually opens up, thinking about coming back around to Disney, this actually opens up a really, really interesting conundrum. Real quick, in the chat, how many people have seen the trailer for Hexed? Give me a quick yes or a no if you've seen the trailer for Hexed. Once I get to see how many people know what this is or what have you, I'll continue on from there. But Disney has had some real gold mines on some gold mines, but some real like geese that lay golden eggs on their hands, and they normally don't do anything with those geese. Really great example, Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls was so used and abused by Disney, they could have had 3 seasons with loads of merchandise. It would have made them tons of money, but they didn't do anything with it. The Owl House should have been given its full run. Again, with a good line of merchandise, it would have done fairly well. Tangled, the animated series, absolutely needed to be given the chance to really spread its wings, to, again, have a good line of merchandise and have some real love put behind it in terms of advertising. It would have done so dang well. Um, and especially like in the case of Alex and Dana, so Alex Hirsch and Dana Terrace, Disney just took what they could get from them and then ran off without even exploring the full potential of what they had. And as a result, yeah, they lost out on opportunity. They lost out on making good money. They lost out on giving their fans what their fans wanted in terms of great storytelling. So big takeaway: if you are a studio, if you're someone who's facilitating other creators, you got to let those creators do what they got to do in order to make the most of those stories, and don't just simply take it away from them. All right, so we got one person saying Lorraine says not yet she's not yet seen Hexed. So I'm not going to pull up the trailer just right here because I haven't edited. I have not had the chance to edit it, and I know that Disney will then strike the stream if I show the unedited trailer. But here's the thing: Hexed was basically stolen from Dana Terrace. It's the Owl House, just made Disney appropriate, which is silly to say because Disney greenlit the Owl House and put, at one point, some real effort and promise behind it, only then to snatch it all away once season 2 started getting underway. So Hexed is basically Disney saying, "Oh my, oh, like you had this great idea, Dana. We love the idea of witches and of darkness and adventure and of a girl of color who's on the spectrum and might also be LGBTQ plus. We really like those things. We just didn't like your story. So we're going to take everything that we can from your story and we're going to repurpose it into our Disney-fied, Disney family appropriate version of your show. And we're going to call it Hexed." When you look up the trailer for Hexed and then go look up like the trailer for the Owl House or watch episode 1 of the Owl House, they look identical. It's really, really creepy. And Disney can do it because they own it. They own the Owl House. They can do whatever they want with that property. It's just really, really sad that they basically mistreated Dana, stole her story idea, and decided to make it, well, again, Disney appropriate, rather than let Dana tell her story. I have a very good feeling that when we see Hexed later this year, I believe, is when it comes out, when we finally have the chance to watch Hexed, it's basically going to be the Owl House really watered down, without the humor, without the heart, without the danger, without the mystery. And so it's just going to be bland character, bland magic, bland plots. And yeah, so like again, like Beavis and Butthead, taking it away from the original creators. Watch where that goes. Ruby, hey, Ruby's coming back. Apparently, they got volume 10 greenlit. I don't know if I'm going to review it. I'll probably watch it, but I have no idea if I'm going to review it because volume 9 was such an abominable letdown. Holy cow! But yeah, continuing on Ruby without Monty home, which I mean makes sense because Monty tragically passed away due to a very, very unfortunate accident with allergies. Like it makes sense that they would want to continue on the show, but I'm sorry, Miles and Carrie very quickly lost the plots. And Ruby never recovered. So yeah, not everyone can have the luck that Robert Jordan's estate had when Brandon Sanderson took up the Wheel of Time and finished it, nor have the same luck that Berserk had, that Kentaro Mura's best friend just so happened to also be a mangaka and just so happened to have talked about the story of Berserk for years with Mura, to the point that he knew the story well enough that, going off of Mura's notes, he could continue Berserk. And I know it's not the same Berserk as Kentaro Miura would have done himself. Like you can see it in the artwork, you can see it in the pacing. but that they've done their best to stay true to the feeling of Berserk and to its themes and to its characters. And so, by golly, it just reads so nice to know that Berserk is still continuing, and we've gotten to such an amazing moment in the story. Whereas, yeah, with Ruby, Ruby was not treated so well after Monty's passing, and it just hurts now. Uh, and I have a feeling that we're going to see something very similar with Hexed when we finally get to see it. That we'll see a bastardization of Dana Terrace's vision. So that'll be fun. That'll be something to look forward to. Lorraine says, from what I remember, Disney was the only studio that would pick up her show, and then eventually betrayed her. She would have been better to wait for Glitch to pick it up. Yeah, no, in hindsight, yes. But also in hindsight, we have to remember that Glitch was not yet where it was at the time that Dana pitched the Owl House. Also, Dana had already been working on the Owl House in conjunction with Alex Hirsch while working on Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls and the Owl House were meant to cross paths. I know that people say no, it was just Easter eggs between two people who were dating. But if you actually look at the material that began to introduce the Owl House, that was stuff that actually comes around to the episodes that were meant to make up season 3 of Gravity Falls, because Alex Hirsch decided to combine seasons 2 and 3 together to make the end of the series with season 2. That means that there were 10. That means that there was at least 10 episode ideas on the table that they had intended to turn into episodes. We know that one of them was very likely Blendon Blandon's Time Pirate Treasure Hunt, which is a really cool story. When Mabel loses her face to the face snatcher, that one involving Pacifica is a really big episode idea, and that one has firm connections to the Owl House in it. And then also just a couple of other ideas. Like Alex Hirsch has, over time, he's revealed some of those other episode ideas. I was going to this, but in any case, within a couple of those discarded episode ideas were immediate connections to the Owl House, which means that while Gravity Falls was in production from 2014 to 2015 to 2016, he and Dana were already talking about what would become the Owl House. And then immediately post Gravity Falls, the two of them were working to make the Owl House become a reality. So because she was already in-house at Disney, it meant that she had a far better chance of having her show picked up by Disney. And her original idea was far more mature. It fell perfectly within that realm of 18 to 30-year-olds. That was where she was going, which Hollywood as a whole believes that audiences between 18 to 30 years old are not a reliable audience, and therefore they will not make shows or movies for them. This comes down to their own internal statistics where they say that they don't make enough money off of that age range, so they're not going to make anything that appeals to them. What makes Glitch a very different monster is that Luke and Kevin came along and said, no, people between the ages of 18 to 30 really, really like to be entertained, but there's just nothing being made for them. And they will pay money for the stuff that they like. So make good shows that they will like, and they will pay for them. But that was a model that went against the grain, that people believed couldn't be done or couldn't be proved until Murder Drones rolled onto the scene, began making a name for Glitch way more than their previous shows, and then the Amazing Digital Circus came roaring onto the scene later on and solidified what Kevin and Luke had maintained early on. But by that time, the Owl House was already well underway. And so that is why Dana would never have actually had the chance to unfortunately meet up with Kevin and Luke earlier to make the Owl House happen. It's a real shame. Like, in hindsight, yes, she should have waited. But again, also in hindsight, no one would have known at the time just how big and amazing Glitch Productions was going to be. And that they could have done something amazing with the Owl House. And it probably would have also helped her to maintain her original vision even more. So, yeah, there you have it there. But yeah, so things to those will be things for us to look forward to in the near future. Talking about Hexed, and then darn, my mind went blank. It's been nearly 3 hours, guys. I think it's a good time to start wrapping up because my mind's beginning to go blank. Lorraine says her being betrayed by Disney reminds me of General Shepard from the original Modern Warfare 2. Good. That's one less loose end. Oh, there's an oof. Oh, there's an oof. Yes, Disney's betrayal. Man, it gets even worse when you know the interconnections between her and Matt Brawley and how Disney began to kind of undermine Amphibia after Matt began standing up for Dana. Is just too vicious. All right, so that pretty much, though, touches on everything that I planned and even more. So I think that with 3 hours under our belts and quite a bit talked about, from Krusie to other ships to Noelle, some theorizing for Chapter 6, a little bit of writing advice, talking about the newest Murder Drone special, which is amazing. Hopefully we get more of it. If you want more of that stuff, you got to let Glitch know. And then thank you guys for letting me ramble on about dumb stuff from Hollywood and critics and people needing to have better media and story literacy. Dang it. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for being here with me for this live stream. I hope that you have a wonderful time for the rest of your evening, day, morning, wherever you are at. And I'll be seeing you guys soon again in another video. And until then, y'all, if you wish to support us further, this is your first time coming across us, thank you for hanging around. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Check out our other videos or check out the books that we've published. Links for them are in the description. And until the next one, y'all, tschüss.